11th day of February 2025, and it's such a joy to welcome you to the most informative, educative, and analytical breakfast show on the block, the AM Show. And we are broadcasting from our studio here in Kokomimle to the 16 regions on the Joy News channel, around the world on myjoyonline.com, on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and it's such a pleasure to do this with
Samuel Kojo Brez, and until today, we never knew there was a Kojo and Ajwa thing. So she's Ajo,
yes,
and I am Kojo. And Ajo never is.
No, Ajo is actually everywhere for Ajwa.
For Ajwa,
yeah,
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So Kojo and Ajwa show. But let's run you through how the day will go. We'll start with, obviously, with the AM show. After that, we'll bring you the news review. And then we'll bring you, on the news review, we'll be having the former GJA president, Afel Moni, joining us, as well as James Kofi Annan, who's a child rights advocate. They will be joining us here, as well as Ahmed Ibrahim, former PRO Youth Employment Agency.
Well, after that, Muftan Abil Abdullah will serve you AM Sports. Then we'll get into our big stories. And we'll be looking at the oral committee, because yesterday they presented a report containing 2,417 suspected corruption complaints to President John Dramani Mahama, with a potential accrual of some, listen to this, $20.49 billion from 36 cases. But how does the Attorney General jostle through this Herculean legal task? And how does this fight against corruption find expression in the withdrawal of ongoing cases of some officials who happen to have served in this government 8 years ago? Kojo will tell you more, but Kojo, it looks like in one breath, we are prosecuting or ready to prosecute people for corruption, and in another breath, we are clearing some people who have ongoing cases.
Well, they say that they've looked at the cases, they think that, well, there's no much to prosecute them. Because if there were, then the 8 years that the MPP was in power, they could have. But it also brings a lot of questions as to why didn't you allow the court to rather clear them, but you clear them? And that's why I've read Manasseh Azur's post where he says, well, the clearing agent is now John Mahama. But is he right or not? The public will judge. But on the show today, we'll take a look at the petroleum downstream sector and a case for a petroleum hub. Our CSOs in the energy sector call for reforms in the petroleum downstream activities. Will be joined by someone who is the immediate past CEO of the petroleum hub to share with us a lot of knowledge in that sector and to understand whether or not there's that clear call for us to take a real look at the petroleum down sector. But you know what? You can join us with your thought on the show, on all our social media handles, and on phone to have your stay. And you know, we say that the show is for you and us, so stay with us.
Ubuntu, we are because you are. Folks, let's get ready for the AM News now. Folks, I'm Sweetie Abochi. Welcome to the AM News on the AM Show. Let's start with President John Dramani Mahama, because he's ordered the Attorney General to immediately begin investigations and prosecute those found culpable in the Operation Recover All Loot report. Speaking at the Jubilee House after receiving the report from the oral committee and subsequently presenting it to the Attorney General, President Mahama reiterated his commitment to fighting corruption. He assured Ghanaians that every peso recovered will be reinvested in national development, emphasizing that Ghana is no longer a ground for corruption. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
Where the members of the oral committee just finished presenting their report to the president, and the president also forwarded it to the Attorney General right there, presented it to the AG for the next phase, to take place.
The chairman of the oral committee, Samuel Blakwa, said the total value of 36 financial cases reviewed was $20.49 billion. He said the estimated value of state lands reviewed was $702.8 million, with the total estimated value of all cases reviewed standing at $21.19 billion. President John Mahama presented the report after receiving it from the Oral Committee to the Attorney General, ordering him to launch immediate investigations and prosecute those who will be found culpable in the Operation Recover All Loot report, as he warns that Ghana is no longer a ground for corruption.
Make for sober reading. They reveal the scale of financial leakages that have cost our nation dearly. Resources that should have been invested in education, healthcare, infrastructure, and social development. But they also offer hope that through our collective efforts, we can reclaim what is ours and deter future acts of economic sabotage. As we receive this report, let me assure the Ghanaian people that the work does not end here. The recommendations of the report will be carefully studied, and where legal action and investigations are warranted, they will be pursued without fear or favor. Every peso recovered will be channeled back into national development, and mechanisms will be strengthened to prevent such losses in the future. I have promptly handed over the report to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and I give him firm instructions to commence immediate investigations into the cases reported in here, with a view to prosecuting anyone found liable for corruption or related offenses. To those who think they can defraud the state and escape justice, let this serve as a strong warning. Ghana is no longer a safe haven for corruption. To those who stand for integrity, accountability, and the rule of law, I assure you that this government remains your steadfast partner.
We want to conclude with some fascinating figures. The 36 cases that we have reviewed in detail, if we are successful in recoveries, we can retrieve as much as 20.49 billion United States dollars. 20.49 billion United States dollars. 36 cases, and that's from National Cathedral, PDS, SML. You have the GMPC salt pond decommissioning, and we decided that in this open session we will not go into greater detail, and so I want to be restrained. But there's a great deal of resources belonging to the taxpayers that can be retrieved. Then we've also done an estimate of the state capture, the lands. If we successfully ask people to pay conservative market value for the lands they have looted, again, the experts are telling us that we can recover about 702.8 million United States dollars for the Ghanaian people. That's if we just ask people, those who were paying 42,000 cedis, 120,000 cedis, 160,000 cedis, to pay the fair market value. Those are lands that $500,000, $600,000, you will even struggle to get cantonments land at that figure. So very conservative estimates. We take the view that if people are asked to pay the real market value, this is how much we can retrieve. So in all, just a summary, the 36 cases, the high amount cases that we put together, and then the land loot, potentially we can raise about 21.19 billion United States dollars. And that is far more than what we have been chasing the IMF for and subjecting ourselves to all kinds of conditionalities. So we want to renew our
Moving on, health authorities in the Bono East region are increasing public education and surveillance to help save lives and curb the possible spread of meningitis. The Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Paulina Clara Pia, in an interview with Joy News, urged the general public, especially those experiencing fever and headaches, to report to the nearest health facility for immediate attention. Anas Sabit has more in this report.
With increased meningitis cases across some parts of the country over the past few weeks, health authorities in the Bono East Enclave have put in place high alerts with increased surveillance across major health facilities across the area. Regional Director of Health Services Dr. Paulina Clara Pia, in an interview with Joy News, noted that the move is to help keep the spread of the disease.
starting from November, when the dry seasons come in, we do sometimes see a high number of meningitis cases. And so in preparing for this season, what we did was we met at the RCC and just notified them that we are getting towards the meningitis season, so we should get ourselves ready. And then we updated our epidemic preparedness plan. And following that, we raised an alert and then notified all the districts and facilities that let's be on the lookout for meningitis. Anybody who comes to the hospital and then who has signs and symptoms that fit the meningitis case definition, the person should be picked up so that we'll quickly manage. Because we know meningitis is a medical emergency. If you don't pick the person quickly and then put the person on appropriate treatment.
Health authorities in the area are, however, admonishing the general public to endeavor towards visiting nearby health facilities when unwell to help in the early diagnosis of the disease.
What we are doing continuously is that the general public also should know about the signs and symptoms. Because elsewhere, for example, where Apart West, where they have the outbreak, if people do not report to the hospital early, no matter what you do, the deaths go up.
Dr. Paulina Clarapia further cautioned the general public against certain activities that could lead to the outbreak of the disease, and this includes avoiding overcrowded areas with poor ventilations, amongst others.
Basically, drinking lots of water during this time, avoid overcrowding, putting on masks when you are in a situation where you feel that somebody is coughing, or if you're also coughing, also mask yourself so that you don't transmit the meningitis to somebody.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Kintampo.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health says it will be commencing engagement with United States authorities and the international community over the much-needed aid, which is likely to be terminated following the executive order freezing international development assistance from Washington. Ghana currently enjoys over $69 million in aid to critical sectors of the country, including health, while the orders have been modified to allow waivers for, quote, life-saving humanitarian assistance, unquote. Many are struggling to assess the implications of U.S. President Donald Trump's decision. Here in Ghana, as well as all stakeholders are worried about how the country, which is currently grappling for a bailout from the IMF, will be able to secure funds in the wake of a 90-day pause on U.S. aid. But responding to the concerns, Health Minister Kwabena Mintah Kando says he is hopeful aid will be restored after 90 days.
Yeah, this is a diplomatic engagement issue. So we'll be engaging them. We need them. We cannot say we don't need them. We need them. We'll be engaging them. They've given us 90 days. Let's pray that it will not go beyond the 90 days. But I don't think there's any cause of alarm for now, especially with the emergencies they were assisting. We have been able to put measures in place to, maintain those activities on the field. For example, I'll give you one example. The distribution of, we call it the last milestone. So the distribution of, consumables and what have you, they assisted in some of the regions. So we have put measures in place to be able to continue those activities. And so there is no activity that will be put on hold. All the activities they were supporting will continue to operate until we pray that God touches their heart to rescind their decision.
A family of 4 tragically lost their lives after a fire consumed their home in Jinyase, a suburb of Asokwa municipality in the Ashanti region. Linda Ajimang, a nurse at the Kumasi South Hospital, and her 3 children, aged between 7 and 14, died after they were trapped in a 3-bedroom apartment. Emmanuel Bright Kpebu tells us more.
The fire incident is reported to have occurred in the wee hours of Saturday, February 8, 2025. The blazing fire destroyed the house and other properties contained in it as other tenants narrowly escaped being torched. The firefighters arrived at the scene after receiving the distress call and managed to extinguish the fire, but the victims were found burnt beyond recognition in the bathroom. My sister woke up at dawn to prepare kenkey and saw the fire. She quickly called me. When I came out, the fire had raised the kitchen. I heard the screams of the children, so I hurriedly looked for a stick to break the door together with a colleague. But we were overwhelmed by the fire and we couldn't save them. Head of administration at the Kumasi South Hospital, Kpebu, says the hospital has not received any official communique from the family. He, however, disclosed the lady in question is off duty as she is on study leave for a year.
If she were to be at work and we have her maybe duty register, we know where she is, then that one we can talk. But the way it is, she's in school more than a year. So even though we know her, she's not at work right now.
The fire incident adds to the over 183 fire outbreaks recorded in the Ashanti region between January 1 to February 7, 2025, with at least 6 dead. The charred bodies of the deceased have since been conveyed to the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital morgue awaiting autopsy. The fire service has commenced investigations to establish the cause of the fire. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Quick.
In other stories, a former Greater Accra Regional Minister, Nilaye Afotiagbo, is calling for a full-scale investigation into an alleged derogatory remark made against the MP for Koliklote, Dr. Zaneto Rawlings. During parliamentary proceedings, an unidentified member of parliament reportedly stated, quote, "Sit down, daughter of a murderer," unquote. Now, that statement has sparked wild condemnation. Speaking to the press on the matter, Afotiagbo condemned the comment as inappropriate and unacceptable. He stressed the need for a thorough investigation to identify the individual responsible and hold them accountable. Mama Sefa Akote has more in this report.
The statement, "Sit down, daughter of a murderer," has sparked controversy across the country in recent days. Several stakeholders have petitioned the Speaker of Parliament to identify the culprit, arguing that the remark tarnishes the legacy of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings. The latest to join the call for action is a former Greater Accra Regional Minister who is demanding a full-scale investigation into the matter.
And Rawlings deals with murderers. When I say he deals with murderers, not because he moves with them. Rawlings punishes murderers and killers and people who are wicked on fellow human beings. That's the man Rawlings. If it's about because of the excesses of the coup d'etats, the first coup d'etat, Rawlings himself was brought out of a jail by soldiers. He wasn't even part of the planning after he's been arrested. When he was brought out of the jail, in the course of taking over the state, the broadcasting house, the Air Force, the military base, and other installations of the country, you know very well that there will be resistance. There will be resistance for his actions and the actions of those who brought him out of the jail. Through that, people will almost die. Those things happened. Some other individuals
took advantage of it to go and score points.
Mr. Fotiagbo has strongly urged the leadership of the MPP Minority Caucus to address the issue and issue an unreserved apology to the Kwale Clotte MP and the Rawlings family.
I think in Parliament we have cameras all over. And everything that happens on the floor of Parliament is being recorded. And there's no way that when we decide to have an independent investigation team to go into this matter, they can't come out with anything good. They will always come out with a good report, and whoever did that wrongful statement will never go free. He will be dealt with. Because this was someone, Rawlings, that everybody respected internationally. And there is anything wrong that he did for not standing for the truth and justice and making sure that people who misbehaved were not punished. The international community would have come for him after handing over to President Kufuor. Very important, because it was said within the MPP group, no one is being able to be strong enough and brave and courageous.
Away from that, the 2024 NDC parliamentary candidate for Efutu, James Kofi Annan, and independent candidate Louisa Boabeng have petitioned the Winneba High Court to annul the 2024 parliamentary election results. They cite irregularities and bias on the part of the Electoral Commission for their defeats in the just-ended parliamentary polls. There's more in this report.
Both James Kofi Annan and Louisa Boabeng lost the 2024 parliamentary elections to the New Patriotic Party's Alexander Afeyomakin, but they are challenging the eligibility and validity of the minority leader, saying the polls were unfairly conducted. First petitioner, James Kofi Annan, is praying the court to annul results from some 96 polling stations, claiming that the signatories on the pin sheet are not those of his officially assigned polling agents. The second petitioner, Louisa Boabeng, also wants the entire results of the parliamentary elections annulled because the Electoral Commission denied her crucial information about the elections. Jennifer Ajay is counsel for the petitioners.
In order to make sure that all parties have been served, I called the bailiff himself and I asked him, has all the processes been carried out? And he said he has been able to carry out that of the substituted service, but he was unable to serve, or he has not served the second respondents. And I was surprised because there has only been one attempt at service on the second respondent. Now, it means that he has 2 extra attempts to make, and he has not made any of those attempts. I personally financed him to go and serve. In fact, I even told him to serve at the district office, EC's district office in Winneba here. And he insisted that, no, he has to go to Accra, their head office, to serve. I said, fine, no problem. I want my process to be served. So you take this money, go serve the process. Today I come to court. On Friday I call you. There is no service. And he says that the registrar gave him the process of the first respondent, which is the substituted service, and told him not to serve the second respondent, which I was a bit surprised. So I drew the court's attention to what has happened and the events which even predate today's proceeding. And in fact, I've made a prayer to the court that it is either the case is transferred from Winneba here to any other courts, any other high courts in Ghana here, or the registrar has to be moved away from this court because he seems to be manipulating the processes.
Do you think this is deliberate?
Of course, this is deliberate, because if you are a bailiff or you are in charge of a court and a petition such as this has come to you, you have served just once. You are supposed to carry out 3 attempts. You have served just once. And there is no proof of service. You've not carried out the second or the third. Should you be happy? And when I asked you, you told me that the process that the registrar gave you was just that of the first respondent. What it means is that there are some hands, or the registrar is manipulating the process. Now, another event which also occurred was that, if you recall, on the 20th, is it 27th or 28th or so, the day Louisa Boaben was arrested, I was in court and I had filed a motion for a joinder.
Well, it remains to be seen how this will pan out.
Well, the Ministry of Defense has deployed personnel from 48 Engineering Regiment to take initial assessment and estimates for the permanent construction of a bridge over the Esokwa River in the Upper West Achim district of the Eastern region. Follows a heart-wrenching viral video of two young pupils struggling to cross the river on the back of the other as they make their way across a piece of log in their quest for education. The President, John Dramani Mahama, commented on the Facebook post and assured of a swift intervention. Here's more.
Eastern Regional Minister Rita Akosua Awate, together with members of Parliament for Upper and Lower West Achim constituencies, and the soldiers visited the community and assured the people of speedy construction to ease their burden.
We have also seen that the Defense Ministry has gotten interested because of the bravery nature of the young man, and our President John Dramani Mahama is also interested in the issue. We are here today to tell the people of Esoko that our presidents have seen their plight, the Defense Ministry has seen their plight, and living here, we are leaving them with one word, that we are a government that deliver on our promise. So, living here is not just like leaving them. Very soon, the project will be started, and the people of Esioko are going to have their children crossing this river in peace to go out and come back.
The Member of Parliament for Upper West Achim, Emmanuel Dra, who described the situation as troubling, said the plight of the residents could worsen when the rains set in.
It's not the first bridge we have to do. I've even done two of this when we were campaigning. So once this one has catches the eyes of the president, I think they are going to do it better and better so that it will be an alternative road. Because on the major road, whenever they use that major road, they have a whole lot of incidents which are not good. Car knocking them down because the pedestrians are worried. So they choose here as an alternative and a better one for them. So that's why we intervene. God being so good, I think one, he has catches the eye of the president, and even myself as the MP, we will collaborate and we will fix it for the good people of Esioko and Lower West Achim.
Let's get now into our business update with Samuel Kojo-Brace.
All right, so let's bring you the business update on the AM News. And financial economist Professor Lord Mensah has questioned the sustainability of Ghana's growth trajectory so far under the IMF program. According to him, although government has shown commitment in expenditure rationalization, issues about revenue administration and reforms, as well as monetary and exchange rate policy, remain a threat to the fund. Speaking in an interview with Joy Business on the back of the IMF team visit to Ghana, to track the country's progress under the supported program and the policy direction of government on the 2025 budget, Professor Mensah maintained Ghana is on the right trajectory.
The inflation numbers, we've been able to, bring it down, as time goes on. And then also interest rate structures within the economy gradually, coming down. We've seen some, relatively kind of stability when it comes to the exchange rate. And so I would say what is expected of the program, we seem to be getting it. But then how to sustain it is where the problem is. And hopefully going forward, I think sitting with the government together, and of course, it's a new government. Once there's a change in government, we expect policy directions to change. And so with IMF coming in, obviously, there's going to be understanding and a kind of a convergent point where we want to look at how the economy should go. But, from where I sit, I think the current administration may not overemphasize on revenue generation. As they've given the signal of cutting down some, expenditure lines. But then they may be looking at expenditure cut. And we are looking at one objective. I mean, once you look at expenditure and revenue for a nation, the objective is to reduce budget deficit.
So this morning, how are the currency and the commodities market doing? Let's bring an update on the two. Also, that does it for the business update. On the AM News, back to you, Sweetie Aboch.
Thank you, one of the S squares, for bringing us business update. Let's get into our news review segment now. And those joining us, Afel is former GJA president, James Kofi Annan is 2024 parliamentary candidate for Ifutu and a child's rights advocate, as well as Ahmed Ibrahim, former PRO for the Youth Employment Agency. Please stay. We're back in a bit. Folks, it's the second day of the week. I hope your week is actually off to a great start. And my guest and I, we're about to reflect on the stories making the airwaves. And those joining me in studio this morning, Awal Ibrahim, Awal Mohammed, beg your pardon. I would have changed your name this morning. Awal Mohammed from YEA. And YEA, right? Former head of public relations at Youth Employment Agency. Of course, next we have James Kofi Annan, 2024 parliamentary candidate for Ifutu and child rights advocate. I'll come to you in a bit to explain why the shift or the sudden change in that. And then, of course, former GJA president Afel Moni. Thank you all so much for joining us. I want to start with you, Mr. Annan. Yeah, sorry, you said it was a pleasure. I was just in a hurry to get to Mr. Kofi Annan.
Yes.
So when did you become a child rights advocate? I know you as a parliamentary candidate for Ifutu. You went against Apenyo Markin.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a human rights and environmental advocate.
Right.
That has been my work for several years. So I'm sure that's where your producer might have picked it from. So,
okay.
Yes, I was the parliamentary candidate for NDC in the Ifutu constituency for both 2020 and 2024.
Right. Yeah.
And
so you see, we know you as a politician more than we know your advocacy work, I think.
Yeah, but my advocacy work is rather more than 20 years. My political life is just about 6 years.
Ah, well.
So, I mean, but of course, political issues fly higher than so many other things. So maybe that's the reason why.
All right.
Your producer decided to change my destination.
All right, all right. Gentlemen, I'll give you each at most 2 minutes to reflect on any topical issue that you want to share your thoughts on. I want to start with you, Mr. Moni.
Sweetie, Precious, good morning. And before I zoom in on my main issue, let me
seize the opportunity to sprinkle words of comfort on my sister Meredu, my wife Mrs. Elizabeth Moni, and Andy, the husband of my niece, who died under tragic circumstances. It hasn't been easy the past 2 weeks, but thank God we laid her to rest on Saturday, and we have so rest.
My sincerest condolences.
Perfect peace. Let me ventilate the concern of workers in state-owned institutions, or government workers, who are finding it increasingly difficult to navigate the NDC MPP political divide. And in recent years, the inordinate politicization of state institutions makes it increasingly difficult for such workers who are compelled by officialdom to dance to the tune of the ruling government, no matter how discordant that tune is from professional point of view. Politicians are appointed to head such institutions, and as far as the law is concerned, we cannot fault the appointing authorities. But in the name of heaven, the workers should be allowed to do their professional work. Some are transferred, victimized, some are demoted, just because they insist on doing what is right, or they insist on doing what is professional. And so as His Excellency, the President set out to reset the nation, the entire nation, please make sure that government officials who do their work professionally should be insulated from such undue pressures.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moni. And Mr. Annan, your thoughts for us this morning?
Yes, I would like to have commented on my Mr. Moni's comments, but I will leave that for later conversations. I would like to focus on the cholera outbreak in Ifutu constituency. I'm sure you have heard.
Yes, in fact, I saw that report with you and then going to visit some place here.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So it's a very difficult situation that we find ourselves in at the moment in the Ifutu municipality. As at Saturday, we have had 356 cases with 29 confirmed. And between Saturday and yesterday, there were 17 more. That's how alarming it is. And I would like to draw the Ghana Health Service attention to, especially the Director General, that if there's anything that can be done quickly to address the situation so that it doesn't become epidemic, I would call them to come in and resolve it. Unfortunately, sanitation situation in a lot of parts of Winneba has not been good, especially around the coastal areas, Sanko, Atakokodo. You may not know the communities.
I do. I went to school.
Yeah, you went to school there.
I know all those places.
Yes.
You went to school, yes.
Oh. So those are the places that we don't have a lot of, good sanitary conditions. Even where to dispose of refuse is a problem. Places of convenience has been a problem. We have our dumping site right in the middle of the town, and young children who are supposed to go to school don't go to school. They go there and scavenge. They are looking for rubber bags, they are looking for leftovers, and so on and so forth. And then they go home with some of these death and germs, and then that infect others. And so I want to commend the municipal hospital staff, especially the superintendent, that's Dr. Amponsa, for the work that they have done since the outbreak. But we are calling for support, urgent support, for the Ifutu Municipal Hospital to contain the cholera outbreak that we have had.
Thank you so much. And it's a big issue for all of us. I mean, every year we come back to the same topic of cholera. So those who are actually doing something so far, great job. And so of course support so that we can all tackle it head on. Wow. So from politics to health, what are you sharing with us?
I'll still also go by politics.
Okay.
Because good morning to our cherished viewers, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I am a Muslim, and before the elections, one of the topical issues within the Muslim community has been Hajj fares, which the government promised to reduce drastically. That reduction has been done. But unfortunately, this is the first time we're hearing the package on Facebook. We're yet to get the details. How is the government going to really finance the shortfall? Because Togo is doing 76,000 cedis. Nigeria is doing 78,000 cedis. Almost all our neighbors are doing over 70,000 cedis. Government is saying he will be able to do 62,000 cedis. But we're yet to hear the details. So we're waiting on government to give us the details, as I commend him for walking the talk by trying to say they have reduced it. But we saw just a message from Shamima Muslim on Facebook and Twitter, and that was the basis of the stories in the news and so on. This is the first time that has happened. Usually, they get us with a fully blown press conference, explain the issues, explain the packages that when they go there, they will be fed morning, afternoon, evening. There will be police protection. There will be a lot of packages for them when they embark on their trip. So we're waiting on government to...
Compared to previous years, would you say the timeline has exceeded, has been passed, when they'll usually, meet you and tell you and break down the details of the price and all that?
Usually
has that time passed?
Yes, it's passed, because 2 weeks ago, there were a lot of these NGOs that work within, they came up with some press conferences and said that, well, usually you pay within this period till the Ramadan. Within the Ramadan, then you stop paying. Then they start the operations, because it just left to 2 months for us to embark on the trip. So we wish it had come earlier, but now they are saying 62,000. How do we pay? Who do we pay to? Which accounts do we pay into? That has not also come. That's why we are a bit worried. We're saying that we're grateful that they have reduced it to 62,000, 13,000 reduction, but we're still waiting for the details.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's do news stories now. We don't have some of the major papers, so let's get to myjoyonline.com and start there. There's a story here about 8 years was enough to prove your case. Shamima Muslim on the dropped prosecutions. In one breath, the president has directed the Attorney General to prosecute those who will be found culpable based on the reports that was presented, the oral committee reports that was presented to them. In another breath, it appears the Attorney General is clearing some people who have ongoing cases. They filed some, suits, nolli prosequi at the High Court or so, because they're saying that there's no really basis to continue those cases. And Shamima is saying that 8 years was enough to prosecute if they really had anything to go by. Gentlemen, are we confused? Is something amiss? Let me start with you. James Kofi Annan, I know you have a lot to say. So let's jump right in. Let's take it. What are your thoughts on this?
The power to prosecute is in the bosom of the Attorney General. And so it is the Attorney General that will decide which case the state would put resources behind in its prosecution. And so I would not fault the Attorney General for discontinuing some of the cases. But let me be a bit more specific and into agreeing with what the Attorney General has done and what Shamima has put out there. Look at Atufosun's case, for instance. This case was obviously a persecution, not prosecution, to the extent that after the state had, done its part of the case, it came out that the Attorney General then was actually trying to use the other person against Atufosun, to the extent that Atufosun had to go to appeals court in order to affirm the no prosecution, or how do you put it in legal terms? It says after he had the state has stated its case,
right,
the Atofosson had to go on appeal to say that there was no merit in what the state has stated. And yet, the state was bent on prosecuting the man. I'm not a lawyer. I'm sure you are not a lawyer as well. But it was obvious to all of us that it was a setup to mute the voice of the then minority leader. Let's look at Opuni's case. It was in the news all over that this man had caused financial loss to the state. This causing financial loss to the state, I have my own challenges with it. But let's grant the government that you want to make sure that people do not assume office and be negligent about their work. You have chemicals that have been produced, have been supplied, has been used. And yet you say that somebody has caused a loss to the state. How do you use the same product that you are accusing somebody of causing financial loss to the state when those chemicals were not disposed of or thrown away? So these are some of the things that make somebody feel that maybe there's some political persecution. I've been a victim of the court processes. That is not the topic for discussion today. But I see that if we don't take care, the state will be allowed to prosecute or persecute political opponents just for the sake of muting their voices, just for the sake of maybe gagging them. That is the reason why I believe that I support Shamima's call that 8 years is enough for you to have proven your case, if you have any case to prove at all. How many people are we talking about?
So
we're talking about,
I just want, just for context, right?
Yes.
Most of these cases involve financial loss to the state, right? I'm not speaking for you. Hold on. So when you take Collins Dauda, for example, the charge was 70 counts of causing financial loss to the state to the tune of $200 million in terms of the Saglemi housing project, right? And the second one I want to look at would be Dr. Ernest Thompson, former Director General of SNIT. And his charge was financial impropriety, causing financial loss to the state. And the money involved, $66 million. That's the second one. The third one I want to look at, I think he cleared about 7 of them. I just want to make, according to what you're talking about, Dr. Kesela Atofosson, his involved 2.37 million euros, right? All these monies, if indeed there's nothing amiss, why not leave it to the courts? I know you're talking about political interference in there, right? Using the courts as a way to persecute the opponent and so on and so forth. But why is it difficult for the courts, the judiciary, to conclude on this matter without, political, parties playing a football of a sort with it? This one placed it this way, this one placed it that way. Why can't we just leave it to the courts, an independent institution, to bring some sort of finality to these matters?
There are processes, and everyone has a role. You're talking about Atofosson 2-point-something million. You're talking about somebody 60 million. The question I want to ask you is, did the accountant general or whoever was in charge of finance just left that amount of money and gave it to them to use and they didn't use it? Is that what you are talking about? No, certainly no. They might have used the money for the purpose for which the money was used. Just that you are asking for accountability.
Okay.
It is this accountability that you have to make sure that you prosecute it in such a way that everybody sees that you are being fair to all parties.
Okay. You also just spoke about processes.
Yes.
So what the Attorney General did, is it following due process?
Yeah, of course. The Attorney General is following process by, that is the power vested in him by the Constitution, either to initiate or discontinue prosecution.
Great.
And so once he's done that,
does this government, led by the Attorney General, in the what we are talking about, in the context of what we are talking about, do they not owe us any sort of explanation? Talking about transparency, accountability. You came into power on the back of transparency, accountability, and jobs, I think. But if you're being transparent and accountable, why don't you tell the Ghanaian people that we have seen this, that, and that. These are the number of pieces of evidence we have, and because of so and so, we think that there's no really
well, it's early
reason
days
to continue
yet, my sister.
this
Early
case.
days yet.
Okay.
They just
we need to listen to the others. I'll circle back to you. Awa, what's your take on this matter?
Thank you so much. I think I will go by the article by Manasseh Azure when he said this is a senior clearing agent. Looking at the enormity of the cases, you have mentioned about 2. When you check the case, out of the 7, 2 of them, it is rational you can discontinue it. For instance, the Democracy Hub. Ghana does not lose anything if really these people are set free. Again, Kokubuahi and Ofoso Ampofo, it's as a result of a leak tape, and they were sent to court and so on. But if my sister Shamima is saying that 8 years was enough for us to prove the case, as if the court said that they have really truncated the case because of want of prosecution. Prosecution was still ongoing. And again, if you tell me this, it means there is a way we can secure judgment without necessarily passing through due process. We have former President Mills of blessed memory saying that the wheels of justice grind slowly. The case is still in court. If you want to file a nolle prosequi, you do not owe anyone explanation. You can still do it and file it. But in the cases where there are criminal and there are financial implications for the state, you don't necessarily have to go and say you have filed nolle prosequi. Look at Bank of Ghana, for instance. Johnson & Siamwa. Johnson & Siamwa is in court because 2 of the banks that was taken over by GCB, that is UT Bank and Unibank. These are 2 banks that, according to the prosecution, he led, his negligence led the 2 banks to collapse. Now, because you want that man to be appointed as Governor Bank of Ghana, you quickly discontinue the case and appointed him Governor Bank of Ghana. When you check the quality asset review by Bank of Ghana that was done in 2015, it was clearly mentioned that these banks will collapse as a result of capital inadequacy and lack of supervision by Bank of Ghana. Someone who has done this, supervised a collapse of 2 banks.
Right.
Today is the Governor Bank of Ghana. Again, when you check Senate, they bought some software, and the software cost us such colossal amount of money. And we said that that was unacceptable. Then the case traveled through the court. Now you have discontinued the case and they are free. When you check even the Bank of Ghana one,
but you know this does not mean the case is terminated completely.
That's true.
It means that if new evidence comes to light,
yes,
they can go back and try the case.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that if you do this, you're telling me as a politician that if I go ahead to misappropriate public funds and do everything, what I can do is to buy time. Within the 8-year period, I can just buy time within the court so that by the time my government comes back to power, then they can file nolle prosequi. That is wrong.
Okay.
We need some explanations why you are taking Johnson Asiama out, but the other people are still in court. For instance, the UT Bank officials, they are still in court. You have not discontinued their case. Again, Unibank, they are also still in court. Now, you have taken him off just because you want to give me an appointment.
Well, you can't say that's on authority.
But why do you discontinue him?
That's the only reason why they free him.
But you see, you leave room for speculations when you don't give us reasons why you've taken that person out. Again, when you check the SAG limit, on the SAG limit, they were given $200 million to construct 5,000 housing units. They used the same amount to construct 1,400 housing units without drainage, without electricity, without anything that will make it habitable. Some people are in court for this. Now the person has, the Attorney General has filed nolle prosequi to exonerate them, to take them out of the case. It tells you that the aura...
It's not an exoneration. It's the point I'm trying to... They've discontinued trying the case.
Yes.
But if new evidence comes to light, then nolle prosequi.
Which evidence
mean
again?
That they're completely acquitted.
You see, what they are saying is that they think that is persecution rather than prosecution. Okay. So they are not interested in even finding new evidence to even check whether the case is there. So I think...
I'll circle back to you. Mr. Money, what are you leaning towards on this case?
I'm inclined to side with both of you that there's a need for explanation, convincing explanation by officialdom on why the cases were discontinued. I think the legal dictum, justice delayed, justice denied, comes into play in all these cases. For 8 good years, these gentlemen have been on trial. And we have an instance where the Supreme Court, with supersonic speed, settled on a matter. And why can't the processes be fast-tracked so that the suspects will know their fate, either they are guilty or not guilty? But for 8 good years, just imagine the mental torture to which they've been subjected. And look at the cost, physical, emotional, all that they've been through. Hell. It will be hellish for all the suspects. And we cannot subtract politicization from others. So there's a need for explanation, deeper and convincing explanation by officialdom why the cases were discontinued, even though in Fale, a case of nolli prosequi, the state is not obliged to give the reason. Yes. But given the fact that this discontinuation of this case has struck cause of concern, doubt in the ability of the new government to fight corruption. Already, His Excellency the President has been slapped with an ignoble tag of chief clerical agents, and he has to work hard to clear his claim as far as this case is concerned. So, once again, a call goes to officialdom to come up with a deeper explanation of why these cases were discontinued.
Especially because you said you were going to be accountable, transparent.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think it's the least you can do. Yeah.
Yes.
But final word, please. And then we move on to other stories.
You see, we have to draw the line between misappropriation, causing financial loss, and civil cases. If a person has misappropriated funds, it's criminal. If somebody has caused financial loss willfully, that is criminal. But if somebody has, in the course of duty, probably underestimated or overestimated in a cost, that is not criminal. So for me, as non-lawyer, as non-lawyer.
Chachi Chikata invested our money into a farm. But he was charged for causing financial loss to the state.
It's a different ballgame.
That's a different. When you talk about the person in his line of duty took a decision and so on, if you take a decision and there is a financial loss to the state, you've caused financial loss to the state.
Let's remember that in law, I'm not a lawyer, I will always emphasize that, but in law, the intention of the person who committed a crime is so important. If I know that what I am doing or the decision I'm taking is going to cause loss to the state, and I went ahead, despite knowing, to take the decision, and it caused financial loss to the state, that is where a crime has come in.
I'm sorry, but I have to take the wind out of your sail. Yeah, you're on to something here, but we have to move on. I'm sorry, we have to move on. Let's do some other stories, and then I'll come to you. We have 2 papers here. All set for Council of State elections today, 522 to vote in 16 regions. And already I've seen some story about people, some altercation over who is eligible and who goes in and all that. The Electoral Commission said it is ready to conduct the Council of State elections across the country on Tuesday, that's today, February 11, 2025. The election of the regional representative to the Council of State will take place in all regional capitals, and it will commence at 7 o'clock today and end at 5 p.m. at the regional coordination councils in the various regional capitals. What are your expectations ahead of this? I mean, it's already started. If it has started, we want to know. But what are your expectations? Election for Council of State begins today. Mr. Won, let me start with you.
Already, people are raising concerns about the relevance of the Council of State. Some see this institution as quaint and antiquated, an institution which is rooted in anachronism. So the Council of State has an obligation to prove its relevance, and at this time when we ought to cut costs, to suit our present circumstances. Certain regions are with that women. Again, gender balance is of concern in the Council of State election. About three or so regions, no woman has filed to contest the Council of State. I believe the president will be compelled to strike some gender balance by appointing some women to this state institution. The interest has been on a low side. It hasn't dominated media discussion, and maybe this is in proportion to the importance we attach to these state institutions. Right. So let's see how it pans out. So I urge the media to sharpen the focus on the Council of State, not to keep up interest in this institution.
We know that the police have deployed 120 personnel for the elections in the central region so far. Just an update on the story. Mr.
Yeah. So, you know, the Council of State elections, usually you have each district assembly nominating 2 delegates to represent at the elections. And you are having each of the regions having 1 person to represent at the Council of State level when it's constituted. So the president also has the power to appoint the rest. Yeah. I agree with Mr. Moni that the relevance of this Council of State, you know, needs to be looked at. If at all it's still relevant, my view is that we should allow the president to appoint all the members of Council of State. It would spare us the unnecessary bickering that somebody who is supposed to be a councillor, somebody who is supposed to be an arbiter, then goes through a very difficult, sometimes acrimonious elections with all the tax and all the fighting that comes with elections before getting to become
Won't that feed into the narrative of giving the president or the executive too much power?
Well, I am
if the president handpicks Council of State,
yes, I am one
they'll
person.
be doing his bidding
yes.
at all points because he put them there, wouldn't they?
Yes, I am one person who is not so much in support of too many elections, frankly. You see, if you look at
democracy.
Oh, yes, I know. It's democracy. But democracy in Germany practices democracy. How many of Germany's leaders are elected? And for how long? You know, in so many parts of the world, even in UK, do we have the Prime Minister being elected? No. It is only the party that gets elected, and then we have a Prime Minister selected out of that. So for me, I don't support a lot of elections because of what I have seen come along with elections. Elections have become so monetized.
All right.
Elections have become so acrimonious. Elections have become so dirty. And even this is assembly elections.
And expensive.
Very expensive. Even this is assembly elections. Go and look at how much money is pumped into that election. And you will say, oh, this is not partisan. Trust me, it is partisan.
Ah, we know that it's the political parties that are sponsoring
yes, even the Council of State elections that we are having, it is partisan.
Right.
You know, yes. So it defeats the very purpose for which the Constitution put it there. Yes, now we have nothing we can do about it at this moment. We're going to have the elections. I can only wish the contestants well and ask that all of us play by the rules to ensure that whoever wins fairly. Because we don't want a Council of State members who would have be a member but not fairly elected.
All right,
then what are you going to advise us on?
Yeah. You have the final word on this, Awad.
Yes, when you check the composition and the rationale behind the setting up of the Council of State, I would say that it will have been the best of institutions that we will have. Looking at the institutional representation, you have former Chief of Justice, former IGP, former CDS, the chairperson or chairman of the House of Chiefs. These are automatic members. Yeah. Then you have 16 elected members who are not partisan.
Yeah.
16 elected members. That's the reason 2 people from district assemblies come to, who were elected non-partisan, will come and and vote for them to be their reps, 16 of them. Then the president appoints 11. So when you check, 2/3 of the numbers is supposed to be neutral people, kind of.
Yeah.
And I think if we are to really give it the necessary publicity we give to all our elections, these ones, I don't recall any acrimony in these Council of State elections, looking at the people who contest. Usually chiefs contest. If you go to Ashanti region, for instance, almost all the people there contesting are chiefs, and the majority of them are chiefs, even though we have former regional chairman of the NDC and so on contesting. And an elder in MPP also contesting. So it tells you that, indeed, this is a non-partisan kind of a thing. The last elections in Greater Accra, we had E.T. Mensah winning. He went through the elections and won. But this is a former NDC chair, former NDC youth organizer, former NDC minister, and so on, and hadn't a foundation member of the NDC. So I believe that if the media gives it the necessary publicity before the elections, and we give them that, we tell them that your task is to go there and advise the president, just like we have elders in our party, we have elders in our homes, and so on. It will have been one of the best institutions. The only thing is that people don't even avert their minds to the fact that it's only 11 people that the president appoints. So even if they are to take decisions today, those who are not partisan will be able to really take a decision and advise the president on certain issues that will help the country.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Let's get into your papers. Mr. Mone, which one do you have?
Economic Times, and the happenings in the cocoa sector are banned on the front page of this story, on this paper. Ghana's cocoa sector at risk of falling further. And the story says unfavorable climatic conditions, smuggling, and diseases like swollen shoot virus and a black pod are predicted to affect Ghana's cocoa output. Deloitte has alarmed in its January 2025 Global Economic Outlook. Thus, coupled with global commodity price fluctuations, are expected to affect revenue from the cocoa sector. Interest rates remain stable during fortnights after BOG retains benchmark rate, and crucial negotiations over public and minimum wage for 2025. The story is back with a picture of Rashid Kpebu, the sector minister, who has no choice but to pass his first crucial test.
Mr. Mone, how much do you think would be significant? Would be a significant change or an adjustment, upward adjustment? Because right now we stand around 14 point something, not even up to $1.
Interestingly, the economy is crackling back to life. There are signs which point to.
Is it?
Yes.
We've increased fuel about 4 times already, Mr. Mone.
Interest rates at a standstill. The CD
anyway
has improved from its epileptic behavior in the past. And so in the Bank of Ghana, in fact, all indicators show that we are on an upward trajectory as far as the economy is concerned. But this does not obscure this does not obscure the fact that the cost of living is still bitingly bitter for the ordinary Ghanaian. So there's a need to strike a balance between making, giving workers the right dose of oxygen they need to survive in this economy, whilst not causing the economy to undergo some strain and stress.
All right. Well, they begin discussions today. Let's see what they settle on. Any quick comments on that, and then we get into the final paper. And then
I think that 25 to 30% is reasonable. It's reasonable, looking at when the economy was even challenged. We had 30% 2 years ago, 25% last year. Even as I speak, as of December, it was 25%. So today, the economy, looking at the economic fundamentals and looking at the other variables, you will know that indeed the economy is picking up. And if they are to do 30% or between 20 and 30%, I think it's reasonable.
Yes. I would have gone straight to 100%.
Hey, I'm ability to pay comes into play.
Exactly. That's the reason. That's why I'm being moderate. Looking at last year when we said the economy was doing free falling, 2 years ago when the economy had challenges, we did 30%. The government did 30%, highest in the Fourth Republic. Then it came back to 25% last year. So reasonably, you're not supposed to do less than 20%. Okay.
I'm not sure. You see, at the time government did 30%, inflation was 54%.
No.
Yes.
No.
Inflation was 54%. Just check.
2023 inflation, it was December 2022.
Yes,
that inflation got to 54%.
That is when government did 30%.
30% was in 2023. Check.
30% was
2023, but in 2022, it was when the inflation moved
so
from 8.
Inflation in 2023
yes.
was 39.3%.
Exactly.
So I'm saying
so it
that
was changed in 2022 or
yes.
23?
I said, when he said 54%, I said it was in 2022 that it was 54%.
That is what I said. I said that.
So it's okay. Let's just stick to the
facts. So
facts.
I am saying that when the government did 30%, inflation was 54%.
So
in 2022,
incorrect. You
it was in
39%.
2022.
Okay, but I think what he's saying is that when we did that 25%, 30% inflation, that was in 2022.
Inflation was around 2023.
You see, that's what he is confused.
So 2023 inflation was nearly 40%.
Yes. But it was not 54.
54 was
2022.
But
that's when we did 30%.
No, we did 30% in 2023. I'm a public
servant.
So I had staff. I remember that I tied my staff increment to the government increment. And so I know that when government increased salaries to 30%,
I'm a public sector worker.
I also increased my my staff salary by 30%. But let's put that one aside. But remember also that was a time that the interest rate, the exchange rate was in free fall.
No.
You understand? So increment, I'm coming. Let me learn. Increment of salaries. Usually, if you say that the economy has improved and therefore you have to do higher, that is rather an irony. When your economy is doing well, it means that your inflation is slow. You are not having a lot of inflation or hyperinflation. It means that your exchange rate is not also galloping. So it also then means that a percentage, your ability to increase in terms of percentage, should not be as high as when inflation is high, and should not be as high as when the exchange rate is high. That is how it goes. But me, I'm not going to put any pressure on the government. I believe that the government have the figures. They know at what point or at what stage in our economy Ghana finds itself. So whatever increment that they come, it would have been incommensurate with the state of affairs at the moment. So we should not be too overly, pressuring the government to say that do 25, do 26, and so on and so forth. Let's leave the economy to decide.
The honeymoon.
Gentlemen, that's
it's
all
not about
time will allow us. But I want to get into your
No, I wanted to do this thing quickly. You see, I see this illegal miner jailed for stealing alligator pepper worth 600 Ghana cedis. That is so sad. You see, I feel that sometimes when we have a right to something, our heritage is taken away from us, and we become poor. And because of poverty, we steal some of these things. I feel that the legal system must have a way of having alternative punishment.
Mr. Nana, are you suggesting that poverty causes people to steal?
I am
that
not
happens,
with
the state
600.
The state should have sympathy for criminals.
How much are these people who are destroying the forest? How much are they earning in gold? The land on which they are mining those gold, the forest that they are destroying, who does the forest and the gold belong to? It belongs to the same person who has gone to steal 600 Ghana. He stole something, but what I'm saying is, I'm not saying punishment should not have been meted. At least something that I find the person. 600 Ghana cedis.
This is not 6 cedis worth of pepper.
I know.
600 cedis worth of pepper. You buy pepper.
600 Ghana
so
cedis.
It means it's in bag.
Ms. Anna, are you saying that when we catch someone like this, because he's stealing something out of poverty, we should sympathize with this person.
Yeah, I am saying
that is meted out
I
to
am
this
saying
person
that we were in
jail
this country. We're in this country when some people went to a judge's courtroom. That's a misdemeanor. And threatened the judge.
That's a misdemeanor.
We're in this country. That's a misdemeanor.
Ms. Anna, I think crime is crime, right?
Millions and millions of cities. This somebody has stolen 600 Ghana cities. Just find the person. Maybe 600 Ghana cities. Find
weight of pepper.
Or 1,000 Ghana cities. Don't jail the person.
That's our time. After money is former GJA president. James Kofi Annan is child rights advocate and 2024 parliamentary candidate for a Futu. And of course, Awal Mohammed is former director of communications for the Youth Employment Agency. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for breakfast. I wish we had more time to dissect Mr. Annan's story. But please stay because sports comes up next on the AM show. We'll be right back. Mr. Annan, easy.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftahu Nabila Abdullah. Accra House, African Kumasi, Asante Kotoko have submitted a proposal to the Ghana Football Association to ensure the sanctity of the product is protected. One of such proposals is to ensure that there are about 20 soldiers at each match venue during every single weekend during Ghana Premier League matches. Let's take a listen to a report as summed up by my colleague, Victor Achutamaklo.
The two clubs want automatic slots on the GFA's Executive Council, which will require changing the current statute to exempt 2 members from the council's elections. They are also asking for revenue share of the broadcast rights deal to reflect their contribution and the number of their televised matches to be made known before the commencement of each season. Today's statement also demanded the constitution of an autonomous league to be run by an independent management team. Hearts and Kotoko are also asking for reinforced police and military presence numbering up to 120 for each match and a strict enforcement of the club licensing requirements for venue protocols. In fact, they went as far as saying that if any venue did not meet requirements, the match ought to be hosted by a different venue. The proposal also asks for a full implementation of the Gbadegbe Commission's reports.
Now, let's take a listen to another report put together by my colleague, Joseph Ayinga Walter, following the viewing party organized by Eagles Ghana.
Nick Sirianni in his 4th year as the head coach, and the job that Howie Williams.
Fans of the Philadelphia Eagles and American soccer lovers gathered for a night filled with excitement, entertainment, and high energy. Activities included games, a brass band performance, trivia, prizes, and a magic show as the Eagles demolished the Chiefs to deny them a straight peat. Some fans expressed their excitement about being at the watch party.
Yeah, therefore the Kendrick concert. That's what I'm here to try to up like right now. So like that's what I'm here for. But also I'm also here to support the Eagles. So like.
So I'm just really excited to be able to celebrate. Happy New Year. Go Birds.
So far has been good. That's the time I'm excited. And the first half was good. Yes, teams celebrate. So it has been great for me. And the halftime performance, 6/10 for me. But so far has been great.
Let's take you to Morocco, where there is a new winner for Hassan II Golf Trophy. My colleague Elon Benan, the Fiamakwa, was there and has details in this report.
Hole number 18. This is where the magic happened for Miguel Jimenez as he towered above all to give those master strokes to win the championship for this 49th edition of the Hassan II PGA Trophy right here in Rabat, Morocco. Of course, the story has been that of a lot of wit and a lot of grit, and the defending champion from last year even said something ahead of time that it was going to be tough. Tough it was indeed, but this is how the story went.
In Ghana. Now, let's begin with you, Miguel.
The defending champion from last year mentioned you at the news conference earlier that you are one of the people he was looking out for because of your pedigree. When you were coming, did you have any pressure weighing on your mind as you came in here? Obviously, because you are also one of the highest rated players to have come here. And also, to Kara, what does this title mean to your career going forward, especially as we're all coming back here for the 50th edition of this tournament?
No, I'm coming now, obviously, and I've been a couple of years without victories, with no victories at all, no? And then this is my 14th victory on the Champions Tour. And when I come here, I've been playing very well. I finished second on in Hawaii 3 weeks ago, and my game is on very sharp. And well, as you say, well, Gonzalez knows that we are playing a lot of golf together, and I feel good. I feel great when I'm being here playing the Dar es Salaam, and I like the golf course. As I always say, this is one of the best routines we play all year. And I feel good, and I've been passing on the golf course, and there we are.
Kara, your turn. So what is victory means for your career? That's the question you asked.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, really excited, opening to win this week. It's actually my first professional win on the Ladies European Tour, so I've come second twice, and to come through in a playoff today is obviously amazing. So yeah, I'm over the moon. Great start to this evening.
Well, that has been the story. And of course, Kara Gaina will come back here next year with the championship tag as she looks forward to hopefully doing a double in the Lala Merriam Cup. Well, it's been a successful 49th edition of this tournament, and all indications are that the 50th will surely be a global spectacle as the previous ones have been. Nathaniel Atto from the lush green courses of the Royal Dar es Salaam Golf Course here in Rabat, Morocco.
Now, let's take a look at the fixtures of the UEFA Champions League matches that will be happening later today before we bring in the reaction of Pep Guardiola and Carlo Ancelotti ahead of the knockout run of matches that will be happening later tonight. And we have Brest coming against PSG. Juventus will play at PSV. Manchester City will also come up against Real Madrid, and Sporting Lisbon will play Borussia Dortmund. So these are the first round of matches in the knockout phase. Let's hear from Pep Guardiola and Carlo Ancelotti ahead of their tie later tonight.
Well, it seems like it's a Clasico because we've played each other a lot of times over a lot of years in this competition. I think it will be an entertaining, equal game. It's difficult to predict what's going to happen in this game because it depends a lot, or will depend a lot, on the attitude, the quality, and the confidence and the personality of the teams. It's such a high-level game that you have to come up with the best version of yourselves in every aspect, not just one aspect alone. In terms of being in form, that's not that indicative because I think whether you're in form or not, you have your own opinion on that. City are one of the best teams in Europe. I still think that City have the best manager out there in this competition. So I still think that it's the most difficult game that we can face, whether they're in form or not. I think during these games, if you're not at 100%, you won't get the result. And it's the same for us.
Definitely. There are few clubs in Europe that, for the history, for everything, always it doesn't matter where. In a group stage, on the knockout stage, always is difficult. We have not done, how we said, quite well in group stage, so we deserve to be that we are. So the draw is the draw, and accept the challenge.
Pep, it's the last 3 years you've met Real Madrid in the competition, and each time whoever's won this particular tie has gone on to lift the trophy. You've been involved in it, we've witnessed it, but is this the great Champions League rivalry of this current era, Manchester City and Real Madrid?
I don't think so. We are in this I would say in the last years, yes. So we play 8 times, 4 times together. We have a good result, bad result. But we won 4, draw 3, lost 1, but at the end, with 2-2, go through. So in terms of the last decade, years, yeah, maybe, because it's not normal to play in the same rival all the time. But in terms of history, Champions League, at the end, we cannot compare, to be honest. So against Madrid or Bayern Munich or Barcelona or Milan or this time of groups, elite groups that we have not been from the history, you know. In the last decade, we have been around, but of course, in the last years, it's, I don't know, the draw all the times we play against them.
That is your sports for now. We do have more sports stories from our joyonline.com. Also join us on Joy 99.7 FM and on Hits 103.9 FM as we bring you commentary of the game involving Manchester City and Real Madrid later tonight. We appreciate your time.
I don't think the government should end the Good for Oil program because it's clear. And at somewhere in June, the World Gold Council is inviting. I was shocked yesterday. I received an email from the World Gold Council that Ghana has been published officially, in the reserve program. And they stated that Ghana is among the top 5 countries that are practicing the domestic purchase program under the World Gold Council. And I was trying to check. In December, the central bank purchased 1 ton, which is 1,000 kilos of gold. So it means it's good, you understand. We can't stop it, but the challenge is changing of policies, changing of programs, and not bringing the right people on board is causing, because the miners are suffering. If you go to the mining site, the miners are suffering. You don't give money to one person that will go and buy gold, and that person, in a way, create 20 companies with his cousins, with his friends. And the main miner that is even paying dues to the small-scale miner association is not benefiting. Galamsey will continue. You understand? The government provided, I think we helped them in 2020 to launch the mercury-free machines. The question we need to ask ourselves, has there been any audit with the mercury-free machine that was the government supported the small-scale miners? If there's been audit, can we see, it's part of the transparency policy, can we see it? 2, how many produce or extraction during the process of the gold has these machines be able to produce and sold even to PMMC?
We established a website, www.oralgh.org, an email address, public@oralgh.org. Her Excellency the Vice President was also generous to offer us her conference room as our secretariat. So that served as our secretariat. So we didn't have to pay rent for our meetings. We also want to use this opportunity to thank the young Ghanaians who volunteered, because every Ghanaian is passionate about the success of Oral. IT experts volunteered to set up this platform for us free of charge. So the toll-free lines, the websites, these are patriotic Ghanaians who did not demand any compensation from us. And we want to convey the appreciation of Ghanaians to these young, patriotic, selfless Ghanaians. By way of quick numbers, and these are very important numbers, we received 1,493 calls through the toll-free line, 1,493. We also received 924 emails. Fortunately, all of these calls are recorded automatically, and all the emails have also been preserved for verification and validation. So in total, the number of complaints received amounts to 2,417. So those who had any doubt about how relevant and how timely the president's intervention was at the time, this is your evidence. 2,417 complaints received. Where will all of these people have gone if President Mahama had not set up the oral preparatory team? So President Mahama has been vindicated. It was a masterstroke. It was the right decision for our country, and it has deepened transparency and accountable governance. Over the last 53 days, we have reviewed these petitions. 44 were received directly from civil society organizations and other public-spirited citizens. 59 of the 230 cases reviewed containing the documents we'll be submitting today were cases that had come up during the period the NDC was in opposition. But we decided to go back to those matters and carry out a detailed review. And all of those are contained. So today we will be presenting a summary of these reports, 230 of them, which have been analyzed in greater detail. Your Excellency, we also want to bring to your attention that even before we move to phase 2 of oral, which is going to focus on the actual recoveries, the actual retrievals, we have identified 10 initial benefits of oral, and we want to run through them quickly. We take the view that oral has deepened transparency and accountability. It has really increased public awareness about the need to protect state assets. And it is also serving as a guide to the new government. And government officials are now more conscious of the need to make sure that, as President Mahama has consistently said, charity begins at home. Secondly, thanks to the establishment of oral, we have been able to save 50 bungalows that were on the verge of being demolished. 50 bungalows. We received distress calls from public servants who said people had showed up.
All right, so welcome back. Let's now do more on oral. You've seen the video there by Samuel Okujuta Blakwayanos, as well as the former Auditor General Daniel Yao Domlevo there. And he says he will be disappointed if government, the president doesn't do anything about it. But the oral committee presented a report containing 2,417 suspected corruption complaints to President John Dramani Mahama, with a potential accrual of some $20.49 billion from 36 states successfully prosecuted. Now,
well, yeah, we do want to understand. I mean, how does the Attorney General jostle through this Herculean legal task? And how does this fight against corruption find expression in the withdrawal of ongoing cases of some officials who happen to have served in this government 8 years ago? And joining us for a conversation on this is former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuah-Yeboah, and he joins us via Zoom. Sir, good morning to you, and thank you for joining the conversation. That's not a good sound to hear. Brace, I believe we've lost Alfred Tuah-Yeboah, but we'll try to connect with them. We will also speak to Mary Adam for Ghana Integrity, and when we're able to connect with them, right, okay. So there are some important things to note, that we are talking about prosecuting people who are found culpable on incidents of corruption. And in another breath, the Attorney General is, the word that most people are using, clearing some people who were also involved in corruption. Let me see if we have Alfred Tuyabwa now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Oh, great. It's good to have you. I'm sure you've been following this keenly. I want to start by asking you, how does it feel to know that as we speak, over 2,000 cases of corruption have been reported to the president and he's handed over to the Attorney General to begin prosecuting? Initial thoughts on this?
All right, thank you very much. My initial thinking is very simple. There is a clear distinction between mere complaints and complaints with evidence. If it is about rumors that people have peddled and have reported, then I'll be disappointed. But if it's about genuine complaints backed with evidence, then we are all in for it. So these are my initial thoughts.
Are you saying that if it turns out that all these cases are actually backed by evidence, you would not be disappointed?
The fact is that as a nation, before I agree that we must fight graft, we must fight corruption. But as a nation also, we must not use propaganda or rumors to defame the hard-won integrity of others. And so if there's any case against any person and there's evidence against that person, then the rule of law must certainly be observed. But it's every day step. These are my initial comments.
Right, and I'm here with Brace. He'll come to you shortly, but I just want to find out briefly. Last time we had a conversation, you mentioned that all the cases that are of national interest that you haven't prosecuted yet or we haven't seen any conclusion on yet is because you lack evidence. Are you surprised that in this short time that the oral committee was set up, they've been able to mass up over 2,000, specifically 2,417 suspected cases of corruption and complaints? Does that come as a surprise to you, the numbers involved?
I'm happy you used the word suspected case of corruption. As I earlier on said, if it's about rumor peddling, if it's about the feelings of people, if it's about the thinking of people that there are various acts of wrongdoing, that one isn't something new to me. It started way back. People will say it, they'll peddle the rumors, they'll say all manner of things. But when it gets to the main deal, that's where you need the evidence. You see people chickening out. I've not gone through the report that was submitted to the president yesterday. I don't know the evidence that they have in support of all those things that they've been spewing out. But when you get a report, and if there's hardcore evidence, then perhaps we can make a very meaningful and insightful discussion.
But I mean, if you look at the work they've done, and they even quantify the sort of money we will get when we are able to investigate properly all of these cases. I mean, if they've not seen the evidence that could probably lead us to conclude investigations and retrieve these monies, you think they'll put out these monies that we're likely to retrieve some over $20 billion if we're able to investigate this properly?
My brother, talk is cheap. Quantifying and putting figures together is cheap. Making the public know that the nation receiving close to $21 billion is cheap. Anybody can do it. But the key question is, let's do what the next 6-7 months and see if you can recover the amount, or whatever amount we need to recover within the next 6 months or 1 year. It's very easy to sit in your office, to be in your suit, and then push figures together and spew it around for people to hail you. But the actual work is how you can recover the money, and if indeed there's any money recoverable. Now we are told that the Attorney General has been handed over these alleged cases. That is where the work starts. All that they have done, from my point of view, is nothing but just rehashing old things that we have heard. If it's about rehashing it, then we are not going anywhere. If it's about getting evidence to support all those allegations and then prosecute them, then we will see where we can also go. But if you only say that we have $21 billion to recover, it's very cheap to say. Let's wait.
I mean, what kind of challenge do you foresee the Attorney General, encountering in this? Because over 2,000 cases that they have to investigate and then come out with the findings, and if possible, retrieving the over 20 billion. What kind of challenge? You've been there before. What would the Attorney General have to overcome to get to the evidence and to get the monies retrieved, if possible?
Yes, in the first place, the Attorney General does not investigate. The Attorney General does not have the power to investigate. It is the state institutions, like the police service, YOCO, etc., that have been given the power or the mandate to investigate. After their investigations, then they will submit their docket or their reports to the Attorney General. And then Attorney General, together with the officers at the office, will go through the docket to see whether those dockets are prosecutable dockets. If something is a prosecutable docket, what it means is that there is enough evidence on the docket that can warrant a special prosecution of the case in court. So investigations, we should leave it to the state institutions. My worry, to some extent, is that we are talking about corruption. Corruption. I've said yesterday, that is cliche, that acts of corruption. In this state of ours, which institution has been given the mandate to investigate and prosecute corruption and corruption-related offenses? The answer is very simple. The Office of Special Prosecutor. And if you want to give, or if you have complaints against any individual, and you want the OSP to investigate and prosecute, you give such information to the Attorney General, going to present such piece of docket to the OSP, or you walk in straight to the OSP to lodge a complaint. If you are talking about corruption, then from the legal architecture that we have now, I was thinking that the committee that has come up with this would have said, oh, we are just whistleblowers, as they kept saying. This is what we have. We are submitting our complaints or the things that we've had to the OSP. Or he said that the president could have yesterday said, this case, maybe out of the 200 or whatever, 50 of them are clear as of corruption. I'm referring these matters to the OSP for him to investigate and then possibly prosecute. But now, everything has been given to the Attorney General. So are you going back to the olden days where the AG was the one responsible for the prosecution of all manner of crimes, including corruption? For that matter, now the AG is now going to sift through and then indicate and then direct the OSP to engage in investigation and prosecution. I mean, I don't know. These are the questions I'm raising.
All right.
Well, let's usher in Martin Kpebu because he's also online with us. Let's find out from him what he makes of the conversations so far. Martin, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Good morning. Good morning, Sisi.
Right. I'm here with Bray. So I want you to weigh in on the selective justice debate. You know, in one breath, it looks like this government is committed to prosecuting those who are found culpable in corruption-related cases. And in another breath, it looks like we are filing nulli prosequi, clearing people, who have active cases that also involve corruption or corruption-suspected cases. What's your argument here? How do you reconcile the arguments from both sides that you're clearing people and you're prosecuting people, but it's all corruption? What's your argument here?
Good. All right. So, of course, I'm not speaking for the Attorney General, but I mean, speak as a citizen. It's interesting. I'm happy you have Kpebu on this one on the program. When Kpebu and Godfrey Dami were in office, you see the kind of things they did. This Atuforce matter, what did we tell them? That from the ethics of our profession and the law of disclosure, That case they should have been stopped straight away. I don't like the word stop. It was a must. They were just, or what do you call it? It was an obligation, a legal one at that, to stop the trial between they and the trial judge. I mean, come on. We don't use the court's processes for political vendetta. You hear Godfrey Dame on the tape saying that it's Oforiatta and Akufo-Addo who are giving him pressure. You hear Godfrey Dame on the tape coaching Jakpa to go give false testimony. That's perjuring a witness. Number 3, you hear Godfrey Dame asking Jakpa to go procure a fake medical certificate. And you continued, and the trial judge wasn't firm. And instead of her to have excluded Godfrey Dame straight from the prosecution, she made it as an advice and all that. It made a mockery of our criminal justice system. So, Dr. Ayeni is within the law to have stopped that trial. That trial was just embarrassing as a nation. It just showed, it basically showed that we didn't know what we were about. So I'm even surprised that they all can be lumped together. So please, let's separate them. Let's take case by case.
Okay.
If you don't have time for each case, yes, I can understand. Maybe we can do it 2 parts, but let's not lump them together. I hope, has Kpebu considered that they are enforcing case?
So Martin, with all the officers who have been left off the hook now, which of them do you think, well, we didn't have the evidence to prosecute and so we should drop? And which of them do you think that we should have allowed the process to follow through?
Good. So now we've dealt with Fatu Forson and Jakpa. The one that I'm curious about is the Collins Dowda one, because the money was paid, a lot of money, about 200 million, right? Was paid. So that one, I want us to go into it. I've said it since day one, since the nollie prosecutors and withdrawals were filed, that we want to hear from Dr. Ayeni the reasons for discontinuing that trial, because that one, that money was paid, and it's a lot of money. So I'm waiting for the reasons. My understanding is that Dr. Ayeni will come out in due course to give the various reasons. So when he does, then we'll scrutinize those reasons and see where to place the verdict. If the reasons are good, all well and good. If they are not, then there will be a clamor for the cases to go back to court. So
looks like there's an interruption in the flow of Martin Kpebu's.
Well, let's bring in Alfred Chiayeboa. He's Deputy Attorney General. Alfred, you are listening to former Deputy Attorney General. You are listening to Martin Kpebu there. Your response to some of the things he brought up.
All right. Yeah. In terms of this debate as to whether the current AG was right or wrong in entering nollie prosequi and then withdrawal, we are informed that the AG may come out to offer reasons. Until I get to hear the reasons that he has to back the withdrawal that he has done, I do not want to engage in any commentary on it because I occupy that office. The Attorney General is vested with the power to either discontinue by way of withdrawal or enter entry. The entry of MP is not obliged to give reasons. When it comes to discontinuation and then withdrawal, that's where the issue is. So I just want to hold on now. Let's wait for the AG to come out with the reasons that he's been told. Then I can make an informed comment on it.
But how couldn't you procure, say, judgment, or why couldn't you successfully prosecute, for example, the one he mentioned there, Collins Dowda, for example, because we know monies were paid, there were issues. Why couldn't you prosecute that one? As well as Dr. Opuni of Cocoa Board. I mean, there were charges against him, but how come these two cases, for example, when you and your boss could not prosecute them successfully during your term, 8 years?
These were cases that were in court and prosecuted. prosecution was being mounted. In fact, if you take the two cases you have mentioned, in one of them, the prosecution closed this case. The accused persons were ordered to open their defense. One of them closed his case. The second person also opened his defense, called about 5 or 6, if I'm not mistaken. So at an advanced stage. So they were prosecuted. In fact, we were in court prosecuted. In the other case, the prosecution, before we left, had also called witnesses, and they had testified, and they were undergoing cross-examination. Prosecution is a process. It's not an event. Accused persons under our Constitution have the right to challenge whatever orders that the court may make in the course of trial when they are being tried in court. And so, in this case that you mentioned, the accused persons, exercise their right to challenge most of the orders that the courts were making, and we couldn't stop it because that is rule of law. And so, it's not as if we were not prosecuting; we were prosecuting, but we have not come to the end. And so far as we have elected to go by this the democratic rule, you must have in mind that people cannot be tried overnight. And say the Attorney General wants me to be in prison, so he goes to court and says tomorrow you are in prison. No. The judiciary is also there to ensure that the rules are obeyed. So nobody can determine as to when the matter may end or may not end. It's within the ambit of the law for an accused person to challenge every single process. And that's the very reason why in our time we made a proposal by way of an amendment to the Criminal Procedure Act, a Criminal Procedure and Non-Offences Act, that when it comes to interlocutory appeals, we must do away with them so that the prosecution can close this case before an accused person can challenge interim orders made by the court in the course of the trial. That one couldn't go through because of obvious reasons. And I watched the Attorney General, current Attorney General, do his vetting. He's of a different opinion. He thinks that such a thing should not be brought. An accused person can challenge all the orders as and when he likes. That's how it works. So let's see how it goes. Okay. We're doing our work. We're given a mandate. In our own small way, we did what was supposed to be done. We didn't finish. There's another person in the seat. He's also reviewing, and as I said, he may have whatever reasons that he may want to have, but we don't have the reasons, so I don't want to judge what he's doing for now. Let's wait for him to come out with the reasons, and then perhaps we can interrogate it.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Toyebo, before you go, I'm curious, in your expert opinion, how does institutional capacity and judicial independence play over here? If you want to say that corruption allegations have been politically charged, you may find evidence to back that. But does Ghana's judicial system have the capacity to handle such a Herculean legal task, or would there be a need to add special courts or tribunals to this?
The judiciary, as we have it, has the capacity to deal with all manner of cases. We have judges who have been trained to handle various cases in the various courts. We have lawyers in the country who also go to court to defend their clients. And so far as the judges are working and the defense counsel are also working and the AG's office lawyers are also working, we should come to that kind of realization that rule of law is also working. But most of the time, some of us think that so far as the matter has been brought before a judge, that matter must end within a month or a day or within 6 months or 3 months. But the legal system that we have now does not support such a view because there's no time bar as to how a matter, as to when a matter should end. And so unless there is an amendment to our Criminal Procedure Act, we will continue to have cases dragging for 10, 15, even 20 years, provided the accused person can afford the services of a lawyer to mount challenges when it comes to all the orders made by the trial court.
Please hold for us, Mr. Toyebo. Let's go to Martin Kpebu now. Martin, you were going to categorize the cases that the Attorney General has come under controversy for, but maybe you can complete on that trail of thoughts before we continue the conversation. Mr. Kpebu.
The point that, yes.
Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, so I made the point that I'm waiting for the Attorney General. I understand that he will be addressing us in terms of the reasons. And even before he comes, so we want to begin to get a bit excited that we are making progress as a nation, because making progress because, though, you know, in the Constitution and then the Act 30, the Criminal Procedure Act, yeah, it's not compulsory for him to lay out detailed reasons, but he's going to do it. And that will be a huge step forward for our democracy, so that we'll know exactly what went into each decision, as I mentioned earlier, so that in the event that we find that some of the reasons are not good, then automatically the decision will be that we expect him to go back to court. If all the decisions or all the reasons are good, then good. So, but ahead of the Attorney General coming to address us on that, as I've already mentioned, is the Collins Dada case I'm looking forward to. Because then the question is that, hey, so the money that was paid, did we get value for money? Yes, some of the buildings were put up. But as far as I can remember, you know, they said the buildings, the number was supposed to be 5,000. Initially, it was a far bigger number of, buildings that were to be put up, the apartments, etc. Then it was reduced, and yet so much money was paid. So I'm waiting to see the difference.
All right.
With what was.
Mr. Kpebu, two-step question, but first, has your job ended now, the oral committee? Because yesterday we kept hearing phase one of the oral committee's work is complete. Has your work completed as we speak?
Yeah, practically, we will have to transition. We'll have to wrap up a bit. But let's say formally it's ended because we've handed in the report. But practically, as we speak, people are still bringing in complaints, etc. We cannot reject those. So we'll have to keep passing those on to the Attorney General.
Right.
So that's also that's a transitional period. But formally, phase one is done. So we are now going to phase two, which is where the Attorney General has taken custody of the reports, and he will distribute. Those that should go to Yoko will be given to Yoko. Those that should go to the OSP will go to the OSP. And those that should go to the police will go to the police.
Right. Martin, the second bit of my question, maybe you can add that in your reflection, would be, do we have the institutional capacity to deal with this? Looking at the number of cases you represented to the president, do we have the capacity to deal with this Herculean legal task, would you say?
Oh, absolutely, we do. We do. Let's also note that naturally, in the scheme of things, you can't have all the 2,417 and counting cases all going to court within 4 years. No, it's not possible. So let me explain how it works. When you hear the figure 2,417 and counting, it's not all of them that we have all the full facts and can immediately begin to get excited that this case will go to court soon. No, some of them are leads. So let's say if we take National Cathedral, that one, you see that there's a lot of material on it, even in the public domain. So National Cathedral is a case that it would ordinarily be easier to go to court. But some go in the nature of tips that, oh, look at, for example,
That's not a good sign, a good thing to hear.
It will be important to follow up from there to know what numbers out of the 2,000, you know. Lawyer, we have you completed. You are a National Cathedral that could easily go to court. Yeah.
So I'm saying that one has more information, more material. So that one is easier to fully investigate and go on. But there are some of the cases you hear out of the 2,400 and something, which are tips. So let's say Kojo Brace. For example, if the person says, oh, look at Joy FM, I think something is going on wrong. They have too many cars, or they are putting up too many buildings. that one is not a case that straight away you say, oh, you have a case to go to court. It means you now have to go and sit back, begin to analyze what the person is saying, and it will take time to be able to unravel such a case. But things like National Cathedral, like I mentioned earlier on, or the Sky Train, you see how our money was paid for a Sky Train that we never saw, okay? Or take the other examples apart from this PDS, you see, or look at all those big ticket items that took a lot of our money. Those ones, we've already debated them a bit, and also there are some basic material. So those ones would generally be easier to investigate and then proceed to court. So that's the distinction I'm making.
Okay.
So it's not possible that you can send all 2,417 and counting to court within 4 years. No. No.
So out of the number, as much as you can remember, what percentage of the over 2,000 cases do you think fall within, for lack of a better word, conjectures that demand further investigation, and what percentage fall within the ones that could possibly go to court in a very shortest time?
Maybe those 36 cases that they separated, shortlisted, or however they segregated that, maybe the ones that they'll prioritize. But we still have Mr. Alfred.
Okay, Martin is back. Martin, do make your point.
Yeah, so that's it. That's it. Sweetie has answered, so it's fine. It's fine. I have to move on to another station.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Right before you go,
yeah.
please just hold for me for 1 minute, Martin, if you can. What are your expectations? Yesterday, I listened to Aldomolovo saying that he would, if this is not prosecuted, they would be disappointed. What are your expectations now that you've handed over your report to the president? Or how high are your expectations, should I say? Oh, I don't think we have Martin Kpebu.
Okay. But Chair Yeboah is still with us. So for example, in the land cases, those ones, you've been there before. Can't it be easy for monies to be retrieved since they peg it to the market price and how much people have been paying for those?
My brother, that is where the problem. When it comes to criminal prosecution, it's not about feelings. It's not about what you think or what ought to be. It's about the reality. So let me take myself as an example. I'm just using myself as an example. I don't own even an inch of land in Accra. Even the time that I was a deputy AG, I applied to the Lands Commission for a piece of land. And they wrote back to me that there was a piece of land, for example, at Laboni, which they were offering at an amount. And I go through the process to acquire that land. I mean, who can ever say that what I did amounts to a criminal conduct?
Even if you bought it for, say, 40,000 cedis when market price is around $200,000?
You see, this is what I'm saying. I'm using myself as an example. I never made an offer. The offer was made by the Lands Commission. For example, that was a land at Laboni, maybe 200,000 Ghana cedis. I will accept the offer and then buy. That's the consideration that I have paid. So it's purely within the line of civil litigation. If you think that that contract is unlawful or that contract is against public policy, do you prosecute me? You are offering the state. You are offering a piece of land for an amount. Someone applies and he purchases that land. And now you're making that kind of noise that, oh, the person has stolen it. Stealing will not come in. The person has not defrauded you. If anything at all, is purely contractual obligation that the party has entered into. Can you go ahead and say, I'm going to take back my land if you don't add amount X or Y because it was below the market value? We have a long way to go. as I said earlier on, propaganda, feelings, and then rumors are totally different from hardcore legal evidence. I'm not saying that if people have done anything wrong, they should not be called upon to account. If, for example, there are people who may have to be investigated, then it should be the state officers within the Lands Commission who gave out the offer to that public officer.
Okay.
Did that state officer go by the laid down procedure? If the answer is no, then perhaps you can hold him to account. But the person who came to buy or acquire it, if there's no express evidence to the fact that he was in the way or he committed fraud or something, I mean, you cannot say you should go and pay the market price, open market price. In terms of you making that propaganda that a person bought a piece of land for 200,000, and then the market price was at the time of the purchase $200,000, and then you can make that one. People will just agree with you, but take that one to court and you see your rare size.
Okay. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Okay.
And Mr. Kpebu, please indulge me. I know that you are not in government as we speak, but is there a possibility that Oral, looking at the work that they've been able to do in this short time, bringing to bear over 2,000 suspected cases of corruption, and with talks about strengthening institutions that are supposed to be dealing with corruption, I'm talking about the Office of the Special Prosecutor, Shraj, and so on and so forth. Is it possible that Oral could be that catalyst that we've been looking for to strengthen these institutions in our bid or quest to fight corruption? Do you see that happening?
Not at all. I see Oral as a toothless institution without the power to investigate and engage in so many things. So it's just an amorphous body that was set up. So they cannot in any way, from my point of view, help in the fight against corruption. We have state institutions. If you have any resources, we should turn that resource to the appropriate state institutions so they can do their job. Martin Kpebu, as he just spoke to me, is a private legal practitioner. He doesn't have the power to investigate. He doesn't have the power to mount any prosecution. So if Martin Kpebu were to invite me, I'll tell him, Martin, I won't come, even if I'm corrupt. But if I'm corrupt and then the police invites me, or Yoko, I mean, I dare not. I'll have to obey their invitation. And so if you have anything to do, we must rather strengthen state institutions, but not set up a body that to me no power, just to receive rumors, and then they'll give those rumors to the state institution for them to do it. I mean, I don't think what they've done so far is something that I would say, if I were in government, I would advise them to do. I would rather advise that if you have these complaints, please channel them to the state institution for them to work.
While you call them toothless, they've been able to gather information, rumors or not. These are leads that, you know, the state institutions who have prosecutorial powers may now investigate to see if there's anything there to prosecute. Does that not reveal a gap in the work that the SWAL administration did in terms of bringing to bear these suspected cases of corruption? At least they've done that, have they not? Toothless as they may be.
My sister, since independence to date, how have you reported cases of corruption or wrongdoing, and how have they been investigated? People have reported cases to state institutions to investigate. People do not report to a body for the body to report the case on their behalf. So now, if, for instance, I reported or I lodged a complaint with Oral, and they've incorporated that one in their report, and they give that report to the, as they give it to the AG, and then the AG refers the matter to Yoko, and I decide, me being the whistleblower who gave the information to Oral, decide not to appear before Yoko or to cooperate with them, what happens? But if I had walked myself to Yoko or had given the information to me directly, that would be a different ball game. Because if I give a report to Yoko or a state like the police service, and then they realize that what I did was just to deceive a public officer, there are consequences. But ORA, if I give you wrong information to ORA, they are not public officers. You guys have deceived them to engage in the wild goose chase. That's the very reason why we must be looking at the state institutions. If ORA is a whistle-blowing agent, fair enough. They may say we are whistleblowers. We are only blowing the whistle to the state institutions. But this appears not to be the case. They rather receive information. Then at times they even come out to say Mr. A or Mr. B is involved. So they are outside the ambit of whistleblowers.
Would you have caught on, I mean, assuming you were still in office, would you have caught on to all these cases that have now been brought to light without a committee set up assuring the public of their safety in terms of being anonymous to tip the government on who is involved in corruption or corruption-suspected cases? Would you have been able to gather over 2,000 suspected cases of corruption if this committee was not set up?
As for gathering, I don't think I have issues with gathering. Because rumors can be gathered by anyone. And that one has no value. But if, for example, a committee had been set up, a joint investigative body, membership, Yoko, police service, OSP, and they were there to receive it, I mean, you see that the state is now working. But people who are outside the investigative bodies are now receiving some complaints. And those complaints, as I put them, they are mere rumors. What value can we place on such rumors?
But whether rumors or not, people have had trust in the oral committee to go to them with information, something that all the bodies you speak to have been around for ages, but have not been able to come out with the work that oral has done. Isn't it something worthwhile, the effort that the state has put into it?
We are now trying to assume that the other states have not been receiving such complaints. Maybe because they've not been coming out, maybe they've been receiving in the hundreds of thousands. But because this particular institution is more a political body, because it's a change in government, I mean, within a month, definitely that kind of, let's come out with the figures for people to know. But you go to police service and then ask them, the last 3 months, the complaints that they have from the public on various activities bordering on criminality, on crime. They can give you the figures. So I'm not interested in the figures. In any event, you have over 2,000, to them over 2,000 complaints plus. Let's wait. And then see how many of them will definitely be prosecuted in court. Let's wait patiently. 2,400. Let's wait. Even if, from my point of view, 10% of them can be prosecuted in court. Even 10% is on the high side. Let's wait. Let's wait peacefully. So as we have life, and then see what happens.
Okay.
Alfred Soyebwa, the former Deputy Attorney General. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Well, one person who's also very vital to this conversation has to do with the anti-corruption, bodies, or one of those people who are. Now, Mary Ada is the executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. She's been quite vocal on issues like this, and it's important we bring her in at this time.
Good morning, Madam Mary Ada. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Okay. So, simple question. What does this do for our fight against corruption? I'm referring to the work that the oral committee have done, presenting their report to the president and the president passing it on to the Attorney General. What does this do to our quest to fight corruption?
So, one of the things that is very important in this fight is the issue of perceptions and impressions. So what impressions we create in the state is very important. So whatever happens, people would then begin to see that the optics are there. We created some impressions that we are going to fight corruption, and trust could go up. That's admittedly one of the good things that could come out of it. But then, again, the other issue is how this pans out. We have put out an avenue for collecting complaints these complaints have been received. We hear 2,400 of them. And out of the 2,400, they've been received to a possible 24, 30-something.
36.
Thank you. The number. And so that alone tells you that in the quest to fight corruption, there's usually people who are willing and available to make complaints. But when it comes to the substance and the credibility of the information, it becomes a difficulty. And we have experienced the same in the past, that people make very good complaints, but these are not supported by the fact. But it is a good thing that this has started. At least it gives the ordinary Ghanaians in the street, they hope that this is going to happen after all. Because they started collecting, they have received, the presidency has put himself out there and spoken without any restraint at all, freely, that he means business when he says he wants to fight corruption. I say it is a good sign because in the calculation of various surveys and indices, we realize that perceptions are very important. And as you may already know, today the Transparency International Movement is launching or has launched the...
Yes, and in fact, I know that Kojo wants to come to you on that tangent, but I just want to clarify something you said. In our quest to actually get rid of corruption in this country, are you saying that the optics bring some sort of cardinal value to the fight? Because you're saying that the optics are good, the optics. Is it important what the optics tell us?
So optics and impressions count a lot, because what we see happen is what we live by. And so the other aspect of the optics being either positive or negative is then the reflection of action. And those could be detrimental or beneficial to us in the fight against corruption. So when people see that the president says, oh, we've received this, I've handed over to the Attorney General. And then the next level, the Attorney General is also working assiduously and very committed to ensuring that investigations are concluded and action is taken, then it could also portend to our good.
Right.
However, if we see that these investigations take a very slow, then it could also affect perceptions negatively.
Okay.
So for now, what is happening, we have had our opinions on this and we stated them openly that the institutions of states who are assigned the mandate to fight corruption should be allowed to do so. And they should investigate without any politicization whatsoever, because we know that we have received, I mentioned it somewhere else, we receive complaints. Sometimes it's difficult to substantiate some of these complaints.
All right.
And in other times, it is easy.
Okay.
Because the evidence is there. And we know that in our court system, with experience from the past, and also even with evidence from the recent actions of the Attorney General, you know that the cases will not go one day. We have seen the Attorney General discontinue as many as 7 cases or so, because perhaps he will tell us why going forward. But these are very important in the fight against corruption.
Okay.
We should not take that for granted. But going forward, we need more action, because in the information we put together, in many of those instances, we are talking about issues beyond just what we want the public to see and what the public should perceive. We want to see experiences and action.
Okay. Now, with your corruption perception index that has been released today, we see Ghana drop a percentage point from 43% in 2023 to 42%. What's contributing to the drop?
So, Kojo, there are a lot of different thinking around this. If you look at the various surveys, there are a lot of different things that have contributed to the drop. And we mentioned this as well last year, that whenever a country has stagnated for such a long time on a particular score, the tendency of a drop is very high. And we have been proving right. We have also mentioned in the past that when we see some of these things and we mention them, we need to take action. Because let me just give you a few instances where we mentioned some things going forward. Remember, they said this also are for a certain period, and this is 2024. We will look at issues around public sector accountability. If you look back and reflect, some of the things government did, then you would not be surprised that we are getting this. When there was a need for information to be given, the attitude of public servants or public officials in this regard. We have also seen or experienced in the past some of those measures that were put in place to prevent corruption not being activated. And in most of the instances, they were actually being attacked either left, right, and center, either in court. You can take the OSC, for instance. He was sent to court. They wanted to remove him. There was an instance in the court. People made complaints, and other individuals took, and we know where all those things came from. Then we have issues around transparency, misappropriation of funds, bribery. When it got to elections, the way people were sharing gifts from the parties, left, right, and center, particularly the ruling government, we mentioned it. Abuse of power, abuse of discretion. In some of the surveys, issues around red tape, excessive whistleblower protection. When people blew the whistle, how were they treated? We had issues around the risk of bribery in the arena of import and export trade. And you remember the OSP correctly dealing with some of these. And you can go back to mention the issues around how efficient government was, the excessive patronage, nepotism, people being engaged based on who they know and not on their expertise. These are some of the things that contribute mostly in the surveys that are done, or the indices, including the varieties of democracy. We have the World Economic Forum Index, the World Bank, CPIA, and the rest. So it's not surprising at all. If we mention them, you saw them happen. So they are a reflection of what happened in the public sector of Ghana during the period under review.
Do you foresee the oral having a positive impact on our CPI probably for 2025?
Going forward, it depends on how, like I said, oral is not an activity, it's a process. So going forward, depending on how that process is executed, it could portend for good or bad. And so it remains with the agencies and institutions that work on this to ensure that they are very efficient, transparent, accountable to the people, and remain very independent in their dealings. Then these could result in very good. Remember, it's the optics, and it is the public sector. So it's a good one for visibility now, but how it is taken forward could also create trust that government could fight corruption very well.
Well, thank you so much.
I mean, I was going to ask about Parliament, but yeah, we have to leave it. I'm sure some other time we can. But if you can spend 1 minute to address this. In your recommendation, you're asking Parliament to enhance its financial oversight responsibilities by empowering the Public Account Committee. From what you've seen so far, I mean, we know of what Parliament did in the 8th Parliament, the 9th Parliament, from what is happening. Do you foresee that Parliament can really do what you are recommending that it does?
At this point, we believe so. We believe that with the supermajority It is incumbent on government itself who wants to fight corruption to ensure that the very huge majority is doing its work creditably. And also,
the line dropped.
Yeah, but that is Mary Ada, the Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, trying to put in perspective how oral and parliament can help us raise the CPI. We also spoke to the former Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Tuayeboa, and we also spoke to Martin Kpebu, private legal practitioner and a member of the oral committee. When we do connect with Mariada, maybe we can bring you that. Okay. Kojo, I think Mary's back.
Point about that they believe that Parliament can really do this work.
Parliament should be able to do, and if you check from experiences elsewhere, where parliaments have been effective in oversighting the executive, they have very good CPI scores. And so for me, I believe that the Finance Committee and also the PAC, which is supposed to be independent, composed of different people, should come with the expertise and also the credibility that we want them to show. They have I have no doubt whatsoever that if they have documents in time and they scrutinize them, they will be making the needed inputs and they will be going beyond just what they do for now, creating platforms for people to come and lament and talk about what they have done without any results whatsoever, to an effective body which is superintending over the budget and also the expenditures of this land. And I believe without a doubt whatsoever that even though at this point in our parliament's life, we have so many newcomers who may not have the expertise and competencies of parliamentary work, but in this oversight group, they would have all the expertise to do the work and do it very well. So it also beholds on the Speaker and leadership to ensure that whoever is serving on the PAC and also the Finance Committees are having the needed capacity. That would, if that has to do with capacity building to equip them, they should give them to ensure that they are creating value for money for the people of Ghana.
Mariada, we're grateful to you for joining us here.
Thank you very much.
Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and they released the CPI for this year. They released it today, where Ghana has dropped from 43 points to 42, and we're not doing so well. Let's see how it goes from here and for next year. Well, we need to take a break here on the AM show. We'll bring you some conversation on the petroleum downstream sector. There's a lot of calls for a reform. What kind of reforms do you want to see in the downstream? Stay with us for a conversation on that. We'll be back. Welcome back to the AM show. Let's take a look at the petroleum downstream sector and the case for a petroleum hub. CSOs in the energy sector call for reforms in the petroleum downstream activities. Charles Owusu Esquire, FCA, is an energy economist. He is a chartered accountant and a lawyer with over 13 years of experience in the energy sector, specializing in strategic leadership, financial governance, and tax policy in both private and public sectors. So, and he is the former CEO of the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. So you would say that the founding CEO, right, of Petroleum Hub. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here.
Good morning. Thank you.
That's, I mean, when I saw you, I was like, wow, such a young guy with a lot of achievements like that. But that's huge. Anyway, in terms of the hub, the Petroleum Hub Corporation that we were doing, where will you say we are as of this moment?
As of now, we are at a point of implementation.
Okay. Remember, or you recall, in June 18, 2024, the then President and the then Minister for Energy, Honorable Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh, signed an agreement between a Chinese consortium, which is for the phase one, $12 billion, who is going to implement one refinery, one petrochemical plant, 3 million storage, and a jetty.
Okay.
Yes, so then August last year, the president also cut the sword for the commencement, and we all went back for the election. And so the plan of the consortium is also, they are Chinese consortium, so they are preparing for the Chinese holiday. And so end of Q1, which is April, they start the implementation in terms of the grounds preparation, the civil works, and then they start the storage and the jetty, and then they take off. So basically, that's where we are. So we are more of at the implementation stage or the foundational stage of the petroleum hub.
So as we speak, there's nothing on the ground?
There's nothing. Okay. What is on the ground is the preparatory work in terms of feasibility, in terms of environmental protection, which we call the C, Strategic Environmental Assessment that EPA did. So everything is the preparatory stage. The real work will begin in April by the consortium for the phase one. Yeah.
Okay. So the jetty, I also know there's a construction of like a harbor of a sort around the area. Okay,
so the whole project is an export-driven project. So the idea is to take advantage of our strategic location. We are in the middle of the world. Even though TOR is not up and doing, we are feeding or supporting over 3 to 6 countries, the landlocked countries. So it gives you that there's the market. So the idea is to do the export-driven, where the domestic market in terms of TOR and CENTU will consider the domestic market. The hub will only come in when there's a shortage. Okay. So the idea is an export zone. So that's why it's a free zone concept. So the land is being declared as a free zone, which gives room for the private sector to come, which will incentivize them to be able to invest their money. So it is a jetty and a port infrastructure. It's going to be one of the biggest in West Africa and that of Africa. So it's in tandem with the Africa Continental Free Trade. So that is the rationale behind that. And it's also going to bridge between the upstream. We don't have a midstreamer, properly so-called. Yeah. So it's going to bridge the gap between the upstream and the downstream. So for regulatory purposes, now we have the upstream and then we have the downstream. So once we get the petrol hub taking shape, then there's going to be that vertical integration purpose for Ghana in terms of you're able to explore and produce and then process and then retail. So basically that is the concept. So, so the jetty comes with the port infrastructure. Yeah.
So you take from the upstream sector,
yes,
and process and make it available,
yes,
to the downstream.
Yeah, basically.
In some cases.
Yes. So we're already producing oil, though it's declining. So the idea is to get those crude to be able to process at the hub, or we import from other countries available like Nigeria or Namibia recently, or anywhere that we get Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, to be able to process. So the feedstock is coming from the upstream, and then you process and you give it to the retailers within the downstream. So we're looking at the storage and the transportation, basically.
But on that, recently, just today, I received a letter from an Nzema group who have written to the presidency, alerting them about a petition they want to submit. And quote from their letter, they say, if you look at it, they said lack of free, prior, and informed consent, and legal as well as constitutional challenges around the proposed compulsory acquisition of 20,000 acres of our private lands. Why that? Why do you take the alarm with that, what they say?
Thank you. So, the land issue has become a big challenge when it comes to embarking on infrastructure. So what the government sought to do was to acquire the land compulsorily. And when you take the constitution, it allows government to acquire land compulsorily if you are using it for the public good or to affect majority of the country. I believe all of us know when it comes to petroleum or petroleum products, it affects everybody. So what government sought to acquire the land compulsory, and if you look at the Land Act, 1036, Section 240 to 248, it specifies what government needs to do if you want to acquire lands or private lands or school lands, what you need to do if you want to acquire land compulsory and compensate them appropriately.
Okay.
So all those processes have been done, stakeholder engagement has been done. I think the issue here is more of, who is to receive the compensation, because per the document available, the entire land is 2 lands. Some also claim they are individual lands. So it's more of the compensation bit. But in terms of the procedure and processes, everything has been followed. The last bit was the EI, which is the Executive Instrument Publication, that gives you title. And we got that approval on the 3rd of December by Cabinet. And now the AG is processing to do the publication. So that is the only administrative bit, because once the EI is given by the presidency or cabinet, it means you've ended the process if you follow the 1036, the Land Act. So basically, that's it. But these are concerns that will never end. Even as you sit here today, across more land, people are still complaining that they were not compensated their land. So land issue, you need to manage it. It's about more relationship and not forcing your way out. So that is what we've been dealing with them. So I think the concern that has been sent to President maybe will direct to Ministry of Energy, then we'll sit down, or the incoming CEO will pick it up, and then they will sit down with the chiefs and the people concerned. So I think that is what they are trying to do. I think the issue is who received the compensation, because it's huge. The compensation is huge because 20,000 acres of land. And another concern people also raised that the land is huge. The land, 20,000. Great.
That's a lot of land.
So if you take the 20,000 acres of land, the real acres that is going to be used for this project is 11,000.
Okay.
11,000 acres. The rest are nature reserves and walkways. So if I can, so let me deal with the nature.
9,000 acres.
Sorry.
9,000 acres.
About 6,000 is nature reserves.
Okay.
So we have the Domini Lagoon there.
Yeah.
When the experts were looking at it, the question was, should we leave it or we should protect it? We all have seen, if you go to East Legon, waterways, people are building and all of that. And you see, once this project takes off, a lot of infrastructure development are going to happen. And you see people, if care is not taken, people will not care and then destroy our water bodies. So the expert idea was, why don't we add it so government then will protect, because then government will have that good position. So about 6,000 out of the 20,000, which will be level 14,000. Then 11,000 is for the real work, and 13,000 is for buffer areas. You need to protect where car will park and all of that circulation. It's not all everywhere that the project is going to happen. Now, if you take where hubs have been built, if you take Singapore, for instance, Singapore is occupying 8,000 acres. Even, Singapore is an island. Now, aside the hardcore 8,000, they have underground packages that they are storing product because of overflows. And even that, they've given over excess flows to Malaysia, which is a nearby country. Malaysia is occupying 22,000 acres of land. If you go to Rotterdam, over 30,000. If you even come to Dangote sees 50,000, and the thing he has done is occupying Nigeria, 6,500. So it is not the land per se, but it is the infrastructure that is going to put on. So there are a lot of studies across, but I think the issue here is about protecting the nature reserve. That's why the experts said, let's add it and then we protect it, so that when the place developed, people don't abuse the nature reserve. So basically that is what in the land issue.
But you taking 20,000 acres of land from the people, have we thought about the future repercussions? The population size will grow. If we take 20,000 acres out of what they have.
So we did, if you can speak to the Jomro Municipal Assembly, they will tell you the land acre of Western Nzima, which is the Jomro. We are using the 20,000 is about 6% of the entire land. So all those things have been factored. When such projects are coming, there will be those kind of hearsay and all of that. But that's what I'm saying. It's all about data and management, how you need to explain to people to understand. Your team can verify from the Jomro, the land expert, to give you the land size of Jomro, and then you deduct 20,000 and can do your own computation there.
Another thing that people have spoken about against this project is the lack of transparency. For example, you mentioned the consortium that are working on it. People say, what has been the openness in terms of the engagement of all the people on the project? How do you respond to those people?
Thank you. You know, this is an investment project. This is not a government-led project. Okay. So when people say transparency is
what do you mean by this is not a government-led project?
So
because we are making the 20,000 land available.
Yes, you see, this land is going to be leased. You see, the whole project is like how Dubai has developed. So it's a free zone area. An investor comes, so it's EPC plus F. An investor comes with the money and expertise, and you give the land and you release. So you see, government is not actually contributing for this project. It's a new or a novel model that is being explored. So the transparency here is that our website is running, all our social media is running. The project is being phased into 3. We have phase 1, we have phase 2, we have phase 3. Every day we are announcing it. This is how we go through our processes. You come in with expression of interest, we assess, we do due diligence, and once you qualify, then we'll sit down with you to negotiate. So it is not a tendering process. This is not a government-led project like maybe we built tour or we bought the tour from the Italians. This is an open investment forum. Petrol Hub is more like a free zone GIPC combined together. We are more a facility manager or a caretakers. So we are just more like a one-stop services so that when investors come with us, they're able to get their licenses, their permits, and then they focus on their expertise and their funding. So it is transparent if that's what we do. When we started, we got about 100 expression of interest. Yeah. But when you do the DD, the answer is not what people are saying. So that is what we do. We are not shredding secrecy to say, oh, we are targeting one particular. If not, by now we have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 running. But I believe that's not the case. Yes, so anybody who has dealt with that can call in, or you can open up, maybe do a show and people will speak to see how Petrol Hub is treating them or dealing with them. We're talking about 60 billion here. The entire project is 60 billion. Okay. Phase 1 is 12 billion. Phase 2 is 27 billion, and phase 3, 21. It is not me sitting and saying, I can do the hub, phase 2. It is your ability, your technical know-how, and your financial support. So your financial capability. So that is...
The Chinese are doing the phase 1?
The phase 1, yes.
With 12 billion?
Yes, 12 billion. 12 billion. Yes, they are funding and then their expertise. So they have their own EPCs and then they are funding. What do we do? What we do is to make sure, per the work we've done, that you are supposed to be located here. This is where you need to. So they are going to occupy 1,005 acres of land.
So what's the benefit of government?
To create jobs. You see, right now, jobs is a critical thing, which even the national security is a national security threat. This project is going to create 780,000 jobs, direct and indirect, to the teeming youth. And I think government idea now is that why don't we create an enabling environment, the private sector come to thrive, and then we get jobs for our people. And you know, the midstream or the downstream is where the value addition is, and that's where the job creation is. It's not like the upstream. You know what happened in Takoradi or the Western region, that when we discovered oil in 2007, production in 2010, everybody, we're going to get jobs, but because the upstream does not recruit as much as the downstream when you are adding value. This is a value addition. And we believe same way Dubai did, and now the Indians and Russians are there to develop and open up. Singapore did, Malaysia is doing. That's what we intend to do. So it's more of about coming out with policies that will support the private sector to come and thrive. Yeah.
Okay, and that's why government is making the 20,000 acres available.
Yes.
Government's interest is to create jobs. We're not getting any monetary value from the 20,000 acres.
No, they are monetary value. You see, there will be taxes. You see, this.
Yeah, I get the taxes bit.
Okay, but when you say monetary value, in terms of government contribution.
The land itself, yes, for free.
It's not for free. I'm saying you lease the land.
Okay.
No. So, you lease the land.
Okay.
You lease the land to the investors. Okay. So the money that government is paying, we can call it a pre-financing. That's what I'm saying. This project takes care of itself. It's a novel concept. So even the land that government is pre-financed because, you know, people's crops, you see, the land compensation is looking at the value on the land itself, and resettlement. And so you need money up front to be able to support this individual that has been affected. And then when you lease the land, you get the money and pay back to government. And you can do yourself. This is the only project that government pays and you get the money back. All government projects, when government is the responsibility of government to acquire the land and then hand over to the agency to implement whatever policy or whatever objective that he has to put in. So
okay. All right, so the Chinese, we've logged them that whatever happens, we know that they are going to do the construction.
Yes,
they're going to start.
Yes. So it's a PPP, public-private partnership. Yes. So let me say, what are we bringing on board is the land. However, we've been innovative around it to even lease the land. Ordinarily, you have to give, because see, all the neighboring countries are trying to be strategic to attract investors. We are lucky because of the peace we enjoy. So everybody wants to come to Ghana, and we are also in the middle of the world. So it makes it easy, especially this project, it makes it easy in terms of movement of goods and services. And labor is also there because every Ghanaian is smart. Every Ghanaian has been to school. So, and the labor too is a bit low. So when they come, they will be able to get people to work for them. They don't need to import labor into Ghana. And that's why we're also protecting in terms of our local content base. You saw that we've launched a database that we are trying to get everybody to come in. So that's one of even the transparency. You don't need to know anybody to get job. In the hub, you have to go and process and you put your data in there. Once the investor requests, we push your data to them and then they assess you and pick you then. So basically that is what we're trying to do.
Okay, so PPP and government's contribution is the land, but the land will be leased.
Yes,
the investor.
Yes.
So if I lease your land, how do I still see you as a partner in my project?
No, that's what I'm saying. The partnership is not the partnership we know. Okay. Every day, okay, the two of us has come together to buy this laptop. The partnership is, what is the objective for Ghana is to monetize our central location of the world by coming out with this hub and the persistent lack of petroleum product within the sub-region. So that's the objective. Okay. So government then goes, acquiring land is difficult. So then government use the enabling laws or legislation to be able to get the land and then get the private sector to try by giving incentives. Remember, it's going to be declared as a result. These are all part of the support government. So it's all part of the partnership, but no necessarily mean like equity stake. I think you are trying to say equity stake.
Because when you mention PPP, it means that Ghana has equity in the venture that is going to be.
It depends. So here is give and take. If you look at the risky area, which is the hard stuff, so the refineries, petrochemical plants, the storage and jetties are built, own and operate. Okay. Then you come to the ancillaries. So the ancillaries, we are looking at the state-of-the-art laboratories, we are looking at LNG terminals, we are looking at power plants, we are looking at the real estate, commercial area. These are the cash cow areas. So you do a JV, a joint venture between the government of Ghana through PADC and the private sector. A minimum is 10%. And it's a carried interest, you see. So I don't know, we're trying to avoid government actually putting in because we are already constrained. Okay. So that is where the benefit. So you're getting employment, you're getting taxes, and then the JV. Because the JV, if you are not contributing, maybe you do the modeling and it's going to take 5 years for them to take care of your costs. The 6-7 years going.
That's when you start benefiting.
You start benefiting.
10%
yes.
on the profit that they make.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and it's not on the hard stuff. Remember, the hardcore with the risk areas are solely for the private sector. Okay. Why we did that is that a lot of them were also complaining of government interference. So we structured it in such a way that do your BOO, but when it comes to the common usage, then we'll do a JV. Okay. And then it's not also a build, own and transfer. It's not a BOT. Yeah. Because then sometimes they run at the latter end that is fully depreciated. Yeah. They transfer it to us and then they say we are not able to manage assets. Okay. So we want to do this long-term marriage until the last span of the asset. And the duration is 50 years. You see, when we lease the land, it's a 50-year duration that we give. So all projects have a lifespan of 50 years and to be able to embark on.
So build, own, operate.
Build, own, operate on the key infrastructure.
Okay.
And a joint venture on the ancillary.
On that, okay. And so, for example, these Chinese, you mentioned that they're going to build a refinery. Is that,
refinery with a capacity of 300,000 barrels per stream day, one petrochemical plant, 90,000, 3 million storage tanks, and a jetty.
Okay. So where do we have the jetty, the JV in this arrangement?
So here is the jetty. You see, the jetty comes when it's a common usage. Why common usage? Common usage is a thing everybody is using. So when you build a road, it's not phase 1 that will use the road. Phase 2 use the road. Phase 3 use the road. So it become a common usage. So you JVize it. The jetty is a conduit that either you use it to discharge crude to refine or process, and then you use the same jetty to offload. So that one become a common user because everybody is trying to use it. So then we JVize that. So among the 4, it is the jetty and the port infrastructure that will do a JV with them. And even it's a carried interest. As I said, we are not going to put in money now. And then when you say, I don't have money, it's okay, then let's do it. When you have money, come on. No, that is not.
Okay. Let's come to the downstream then, because of your extensive, experience in the field. Now, some CSOs in the energy sector have said, and I quote, the petroleum downstream sector of Ghana faces imminent collapse if new policies and urgent reforms are not undertaken. The seeming stability and availability of petroleum product on the market hangs on a volatile system. The Ghanaian consumer is paying for high credit and bad debt management in the current system, unquote. With your extensive experience in the sector, what sort of reforms does the downstream sector of Ghana's petroleum industry demand or need?
I think it's about time we move away from silo mentality and come together as a country, and the policy makers also take advantage on. Why am I saying this? Everybody wants to be champion in their own corner and say, A did this and B did this, and we were awarded A and B is not happy. But when we all come together and we do it and say, oh, they've won, the downstream has won together, then it's going to help us. Now, you remember there's a lot of discussion on this good for oil, and then the OMC are even writing on it that we need to look at the holistic overhaul or overview of the downstream. Now, to me, the reforms, if they're going to do a reforms, my own recommendation will be that we need to bring on board BOST, TOR, Ghana Gas, and Petroleum Hub together. As one body.
BOST, Ghana Gas, Petroleum Hub, TOR.
Yes.
4.
Yes.
As one body.
One body. They are all doing the same thing. You see, when petroleum takes off, it's going to be the face of the downstream. But petroleum...
You mean if the Petroleum Hub takes off?
Yes. Which, no, because we signed phase 1 already, so the reason why it has not commenced, so that's why I use the word if.
Yes.
So you bring these bodies together. One, you're going to have a strong balance sheet. You're going to have an improved corporate governance. There's going to be a reduction of cost and efficiency. And then you are able to compete globally. Now, if I take a decision, let's say, at Petroleum Hub, my board, and then we need BOST to come on board, BOST board has to sit down. They might decide not to agree to it. I need to go to Ghana Gas, same. But if you have all this, you have one board, when they take a decision, it helps the investor, and you're able to move on. It brings efficiency. And because they are doing, if we take the likes of Saudi Aramco, Petronas, PetroChina, they are doing from upstream to downstream. If you go to this country, and they are big, they have strong balance sheet. The entities I've mentioned, if you look at it, they are doing the same thing. But BOST is what is BOST's role? Storage and transportation. TOR is to process. Ghana Gas is also processing, but in a different feedstock, which is gas. But that's where you need your LNGs and LPGs from. Okay, so
to feed, for example, the Petroleum Hub.
That's what I'm saying. So if you have one CEO, you can build 4 GMs, general manager in charge of what?
Gas.
LNG and gas. Then you have a general manager for storage and transportation. General manager for processing or refinery and petrochemicals or petchems. And then you have general manager for commercial and investment.
That's the Petroleum Hub.
No. I'm just giving. Now you are bringing them. So general manager for investment and commercial. You have one CEO, have one board. Strong balance sheet. There's no way they cannot succeed in Ghana and go elsewhere to compete. You see now, the people are doing internationalization. We are here talking about localization. If you go to Singapore, now they are driving them to go outside Singapore to also be champions. So we need a strong balance sheet. We need proper corporate governance. We need efficiency, and then we'll be able to compete globally. So that will be my recommendation within the downstream. So we need to come together. Remember, if you look at the OMC's write-up that they did, they are saying that yes, the gold for oil is good, but that one alone cannot trigger the reduction at the pump prices. So we need infrastructure. Look, most of our transportation are by road. We can build, you see, from Jomro, you connect to, say, Tema, you are looking about 310 to 380 kilometers, about $200 to $300 million. You can build a pipeline that you can just pump products to Tema or Tor Depot, and they distribute because they already have the existing infrastructure. So this is why we need to all come together and get it done.
But again, if you do that, then the people who are into the haulage business are also being cut off then. No.
The haulage business are the people you are bringing. You see, the person is doing road. That's transportation. You are moving, say, let's do pipe. You are not living there. That's what I'm saying. We need to move away from our silos mentality. All of us has to come together. This is your strength. You've been doing haulage for 20 years. But we think with time, you'll be out of business. So let's go into piping. I believe they will understand because it's a matter of contribution or ownership because they need to get something in return. So you are not just moving them from haulage into refining because they don't have expertise there. I believe that...
I'm not even talking in terms of, say, BOST, which is into storage and transportation.
But your tankers association.
Exactly. I'm looking at the individual...
No, that's what I'm saying that... That's what I'm saying that the tankers association are into transportation. Or that's not why you classify them.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm saying BOST is also into transportation. I wasn't even looking at BOST. I was looking at this tankers.
So they should come and invest in the pipeline.
Yes, not that they should come. We all have to sit down and say that this is what we want to do. If you don't join, with time you'll be out. Because look, if you and I come together and we put in the $300 million and build this pipeline, they are out. Government, we might say government policy did not protect them. They will scream, they will shout, with time, they are out. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying let's all come together. What they know about this transport business. So you are moving them away from the vehicles into a modern pipe that the same investment that you made, but it's not one day. You know, you have to transit. So we are giving ourselves the next 2-3 years. We don't import additional cars again or additional vehicles because we are going this direction. The 10 million that you have, contribute. Or all of them can come together and say, okay, we have $50 million. We want to partake in that. You see, the idea is I want to own, I want to be called is a challenge. And happening in the banking sector. If they are come together and form one bank, because everybody wanted to be a CEO. And then what we saw that now they are home, nobody is being called a CEO. So I think it's about time we avoid silos mentality. We need to come together and work. Because at the end of the day, it is your pocket you are looking out for. If you structure it well, everybody will benefit. And you see, the same thing is happening in the regulatory framework. If an investor comes, they are complaining, they have to go here, pay. You see, our regulatory here is about fees. But it's not to check or to monitor. So they go here, they get something, they go here, they get something, they go here, they get something. But we can just get one regulatory body, the same fee charge, and then we do the distribution. The investor will see us more efficient. So that's the corner. We need to sit down and look at all this because everybody is complaining about our charges. We can't, if it's 10 cedis you want to charge, I'm charging 2, you are charging 2, he's charging 2, he's charging 2. It brings back to the 10. I can only charge the 2. Put a system in place. As soon as the payment is made, it just do the distribution. That's what I'm saying. Let's put systems in place and make the investor comfortable. So I'm saying that let's treat energy as a business enterprise and not a social enterprise. Once you say it's a business, you have the client in mind. Because without the client, you don't exist. And the marketers will tell you, every customer has a leg. But if you don't see business as energy as a business enterprise, and you think, oh, they will come. Even if I open at 9, people will come and buy my fuel. If I open at we are losing it. But when we take it as a business enterprise and we see the investor as a client, our behavior towards them will change. Why should I frustrate the investor? When you go to Petroleum Hub, from the reception to everywhere is digitalized. Nobody comes to take check. Imagine somebody from Jomro has done a work. He's coming to take a check of 1,000. He's losing over 200 or 500 out of it.
Yeah.
I've not helped the
it could be more than that.
Yes, so I'm just for mathematics. Sake. So 1,000, he has got 200. Say 800. I can't do that. So what do I do? Wherever you are, we transfer your money to you.
Okay.
I have you in mind because you're my client. Because I know I'm in business with you. But until we have that and see that the business enterprise within the downstream is a business enterprise and it's not a social, we will bring all the factors that make a client happy. And so I believe small is more to the customer. If we have this concept within the downstream, and we must all sit down, judge and then implement. It's not like I have been in the business for 20 years. I've been in the business for 50 years. You came in 5 years. You want us to change everything to your benefit. No. When we don't do that, very soon we will move because, you see, the economy of scale, Petroleum Hub is coming on board. Look, our entire storage is about 1.9, almost 2 million. Only phase 1 is doing 3 million storage.
Okay.
Phase 2 will do 4 million. Phase 3 will do 3 million, give you 10 million storage. The policy line is that they are not supposed to interfere with the domestic market.
Yes.
But with time, you see that you go to them to come and buy the domestic because the economy of scale will not favor you. So we need to sit down and then see how what I'm stressing on, how do we work together?
Okay.
As a team.
So I mean, the CSOs also share in what you're saying because they write that since 2015, and after the downstream was deregulated, the people who are service providers, the petroleum service providers, are increasing at an astronomical level. That if you compare the numbers increasing in terms of the quantities we've consumed, it looks like even though the numbers are increasing, but the quantities are not. So the argument, I mean, the number of PSPs,
yes, are increasing.
But in terms of petroleum product that we've consumed in Ghana,
are not.
It is not. It is.
Oh, no. I have the data here.
Because they say.
No, I'm coming.
Okay.
So if you look at the MPA, there's a data from MPA. I have from 2019 to 2024. 2019, we consumed 4.1 million metric ton.
Okay.
And these are data we can all check from MPA. That's 4.1 million. 2020, we consumed 4.2 million metric ton. 2021, we consumed 4.6 million metric ton.
So their argument is that the average annual percentage change of OMC is 5.12%, compared to the annual percentage change in total consumption of about 5.15%. So if you look at the change in consumption, it is not too high to the change in numbers of OMC providing the same service. So the argument is that can we limit the number of OMCs, maybe have bigger OMCs rather?
Yeah, so I think you are sharing the idea.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
They sync with what you are.
Exactly. So you see, when the issues are coming from them, it's better. It helps to solve. So they have to come together, and then policy will take up and say, going forward, we want to deal with 50 OMCs in Ghana. Now they are about, I don't have the data, so I don't want to put any numbers there. They are more than 100.
Yeah.
But if government gets up.
So they say that
yeah.
There were 139 in 2015. But in 2024, there are over 200.
Okay.
With the highest growth rate of 19.79%. That's 230 OMCs in 2021.
Yeah, so it's affecting the bottom line. So the point I'm making here, what they've raised is very beautiful. If government gets up and say we want to deal with 50 OMCs, there will be demonstrations, there will be chaos, and there will be shortage of petroleum products.
Okay.
Now they are raising a concern. So policy makers will take it up, do the study, investigate, sit down with them, say, can we deal with 50? And then say within the 50, we have grade A, we have grade B, and we have grade C. We know the categories. and then we have minimum requirement for them, how to regulate them. So to me, this call is very good.
Yeah.
We all need to sit down and say we are prepared to cut our number to 50 or 100. And this is how we want to do it. They can come up with solutions. You see, I did a study, and when you deal with them, they have all the solution. So once you are done, then the policymakers pick it up, then take a decision, then we all abide by that. So I believe now it's affecting their bottom line. So you can sell as much as you could, but the margin on it is not. And no, the downstream or the retail market deals with the more you consume or the more you sell.
Yeah.
It's more about volumes.
Volumes, yes.
It's because the margin is very, very tiny. So it's more about volume. So if they are proposing, I believe the regulator, I saw the CEO meeting them and all of that. I think they will put it before him. Okay. And then there should be a stakeholder discussion. I think the OMC is leading that. We believe all these issues will come out, do a report, and then how do we implement it? We sit there and say, it's about time that we deal with 100 OMCs in Ghana, 50 OMCs. It has to come from them. And then the policymaker will take it up, and then they would all implement it together. So there is no government trying to sabotage their business.
Okay.
And so that's the angle I'm trying to draw.
Okay. All right, then. Let me be a bit biased here.
Okay.
I'm from Hunter West. Now, why did you jump over Hunter West and go to Jomoro to build a petroleum hub? Why didn't you consider Hunter West, for example?
Thank you. So if you look at the master plan, which began in July 2017, under the former minister, Honorable Boachajako, Honorable Kujo,
Joseph Kujo.
Honorable Joseph Kujo Efia, as popularly known. And then we have Amewu came, and Dr. Matthew Poku Prempe implemented it and all of that. That study considered 3 areas.
Okay.
Salt Pond, Atuabo, and Jomoro.
Oh. You didn't consider Hunter West in there?
Yes, so I'm coming. I'm going to give you the factor because you know that area, then maybe you take the bus, you tell me. So one, they were looking at a place with less populated.
Okay.
The depth of your water. You know, we're looking at vessels that can be able to dock. We're looking at 150,000 metric ton, 200,000 metric ton, 300,000 metric ton. So the VLCC, that's the very large crude carriers, and the ultra large crude carriers. So that was one of the second factor. And 2, the flat of the land.
Okay.
Or the flatness,
of
the land. So these 3, but the most important was the 1, which in terms of the trying to displace people and all of that.
Okay.
So we considered all of that, and Jomoro gave us the best.
Okay.
Look, if you take Jomoro, the depth of their waters, we're looking at 16 to 30.
All right. I hear.
Which is very, very, very deep for this project. So
I
believe.
Yeah,
you know why we did it. So it was not.
But next time when you have a project, please consider Hunter.
It will affect. You know.
I know, but next time when you have a specific project, consider Hunter. We have good land there. Come and put up some there so that our people can enjoy some.
Point well noted.
All right then. Charles Owusu Esquire, FCA, is an energy economist, chartered accountant, and a lawyer. He is the immediate past CEO or the founding CEO of the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. Well, we'll take a break here. We'll be back with more here on the AM show. Do stay with us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Folks, you're still watching the AM show on Joy News. Thank you for your patience. Now, let's get into another exciting conversation. Because Joy News is bringing you yet another show that seeks to promote your well-being. Now, on this new show, you get all your questions about wellness and health answered in a detailed but relaxing and entertaining way. The show is called Consulting Room 5, and the host joins me, affable, beautiful woman with a very beautiful aura, Dr. Sue, and she's a public health expert and also the host for the show Consulting Room 5, where she answers all your questions. Doc, good morning to you.
Good morning, sweetie.
I like how you say my name, sweetie. Let's talk about Consulting Room 5. Right. But before we even get there, who are you? How would you introduce yourself to someone who didn't know you?
Well, my name is Dr. Sue. I like to be called Dr. Sue. I'm a public health expert and also a senior lecturer. I consult for a lot of organizations and I do a lot of public health work.
Okay.
Yes. So
and you smile your way through all the doors and so beautiful. But let's talk about Consulting Room 5. What is the brain behind this program?
So Consulting Room 5, as we all call it, as you go to the hospital or health facility, you go to the consulting room. What happens there? You see the doctor, and then the doctor, the doctor listens to you, whatever it is, and then the doctor prescribes your medication. So it is just like that. It will be in that setting, like a consulting room, with a client or a customer and a health professional. So we discuss the health issues, your well-being, and then we give you a prescription, not on paper, but detailed explanation, education.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it.
So more like doctors assemble and a patient or
in the consulting room, doctors are not assembled.
No, you are a doctor. Your health specialist is, I'm guessing, would be doctors
yes,
as well.
a medical professional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So based on what topic we are discussing, then we bring in the specialist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a lot of health shows. What is your unique selling proposition? What about Consulting Room 5 should make our viewers make an appointment to watch?
So, like any other health show, it's a health education program. But with this one, we are bringing in influential people. We'll bring you, sweetie.
Huh?
So
yeah.
we'll bring in influential people. Okay. We'll talk about their health problems. They will open up how they go about it. You know, some people, even when you go to the hospital, you do your numbers, you check your blood pressure or your glucose level, and it's so high, you are alarmed.
Yes.
But when you get somebody to talk to you, to give you the assurance, then you know that, no, if I manage it well, I can live longer. I can live happily like any other person. So this one, we bring in people that you know, I know, to the studios, and then they tell us about exactly what happened when something, maybe a health condition happened to them, and how did they manage it.
Yeah.
Through that, we use it to educate the populace. So you sit back in your office, in your houses, and then we consult for you at the studios.
Hence, Consulting Room 5. I like it. But you know, let me just share this. A new phobia, if it is, for me now, is non-communicable diseases. Because I'm watching a lot of documentaries, partly from here, Joy News, and on social media, about how that's really, like, you know, it's taking so many lives, non-communicable disease. So I'm curious to ask, what kind of health topics would you be discussing? From the way you explained what would be done, I'm sure there's diabetes in there somewhere. Exactly. But tell us more. What kind of topics should we expect?
So I'm glad you brought about non-communicable diseases.
Yeah.
You know, initially we were struggling with communicable diseases, which is disease that's transferred from one person to the other. And now we are having non-communicable diseases also as a problem now, prevalence now. So now we are having something we call the double burden of disease. So the non-communicable and the communicable disease have merged up, and we are struggling with it. So we are going to work on both sides to help the populace. So with the non-communicable, as you have said, diabetes, stroke, management of disability, cancers, and all that. We are going to talk about them. And then the communicable diseases, HIV, and other transmissible infections. We talk of viral infections, parasitic infections, and all others. We are going to discuss like health, and people are going to enjoy it.
I want to leave the show for you to host it.
Just leave it for me. People should just anticipate something good. It's going to be fine.
Doc, a show like this, when people are watching, they would love to contribute. Maybe you say something and they immediately go, how about if it's the other way? So are your audience allowed to, you know, bring in their questions so that you can answer those for them?
Yes, so with the calling in and participating, we would use the social media handles.
Right.
Yeah, so if you have any question, you use the multimedia social media handles, and I'm sure during the promo it will all be aired for people to get to know.
Okay, Doc, I'll give you a minute to speak directly to our audience, inviting them to make a date with you and don't miss anything on Consulting Room 5.
Consulting Room 5. Okay. So viewers of Sweetie's program, AM Show, I am inviting you to watch Consulting Room 5 with me, your hosts, Dr. Sue. It is going to be very interesting, educative, and is going to give you a lot of thrills, release stress that we are going through in our daily lives. It will give you topical medical issues. It will provide you with all the answers that you would need. You will sit back in your homes, in your offices, wherever you watch TVs, wherever you listen to the radio, and it will give you all the answers that you need. So don't miss it.
Thank you so much, Dr. C. And I'm looking forward to watching the very first episode. And we'll keep them updated, right? As soon as you're ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
So
there you have it. Dr. Sue is the host of Consulting Room 5, soon to be aired on the Joy News channel. You don't want to miss a single one of it. I'm already excited. I cannot wait to see what medical issues I can get advice on from Consulting Room 5. Stay with us. In a few minutes, we will be back to wrap up, and it will be our show for today. But for now, off we pop. So that's our show. Sweetie and Samuel, Ajo and Kojo. What did I just do? But we're having so much fun before he came on live. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for staying with us from 6 a.m. till now. We are back on your screen tomorrow, same time. Kojo, how was today?
Brilliant.
That conversation on Petroleum Hub, excellent. I enjoyed it.
I've loved every bit of it, you know. The last one you did. An amazing one, exactly. You know, so I hope that we'll do it again tomorrow, and the day's coming. Well, so join us again, God willing, tomorrow. Let's have a breakfast together, and thanks for allowing us into your homes, your offices, your cars, wherever, into your spaces. We're grateful, but there is more coming up here on this channel, so stay with us.
Well, it's bye for now. See you tomorrow. Mwah.